Hey Juan.
Yes.
Hey Juan.
Yep.
Yes.
Paul, thanks for providing the Christmas tree to our meeting tonight. That is beautiful.
You're welcome. That's a real tree with real flocking on it.
Oh, that's nice. That is really nice. Thank you. Okay, well, I have 6 o'clock. So we're going to begin our workshop. Our first point is to discuss curbside glass recycling program. Do we have Jason with us tonight? I don't see Jason here yet. Oh, there's Jason. Jason, as soon as you're ready, tell us about this curbside glass recycling program that is on our agenda.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I saw you speaking, but I couldn't hear the audio at first. So, can I share my screen?
Please do.
Okay, let me just make sure.
Happy belated birthday, Paul.
I wonder if I'm not. Looks like on the settings, maybe. Oh, here we go. I think that should be already. Sorry, for some reason it's just a sec. Sorry about that. It's saying it's failed to share. And I'm going to try one more time.
I think you've got it started. There you go.
Perfect.
You're up now.
All right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for obviously taking the time to talk about curbside glass recycling. My name is Jason Utkart. I'm the general manager here at Momentum Recycling. I'm going to kind of tell you the quick history of Momentum Recycling. I know I'm kind of limited for time, but I'm happy to send over this presentation to you, of course, afterwards. You can slowly read through everything. I'll touch on the performance of Midvale's existing glass recycling drop-off location and how the addition of a curbside glass recycling program will probably augment the volume of glass that you're seeing there, and then touch on just a couple of follow-up things. So real quick, quick overview for you, and then touching base on our history. So we're a family-owned business. We're headquartered right here in Salt Lake City. You've actually probably flown over our facility if you've flown in and out of Salt Lake City and just never knew it. We've been here since 2012. We were founded in 2008, initially only as a recycling hauler. So we actually weren't a glass recycling facility at first. We did haul glass to a different outlet at the time that eventually just could not support the volume of glass that they were receiving. And so basically, after the first couple of years, the family that started Momentum Recycling realized that there was a need in the community for a better facility. And so in 2012 is when they built this glass recycling facility, which you can see behind me kind of through these windows, in response to the community's need for it. Today, we still are the only glass recycling facility in all of Utah. We actually opened up a second facility about 3 years ago in Colorado, which is the only glass recycling facility in all of Colorado. So any glass that is recycled along the Front Range, the Wasatch Front, Idaho, all the way to the Four Corners region, down to St. George, essentially all comes to one of our two facilities to be recycled. And I'll talk more about the process in just a bit here. We currently serve about 700 commercial customers that range from University of Utah and hospitals down to coffee shops, individual apartment buildings, and now the curbside program services 10,000 residential households. What happens to the glass when it actually when it's collected? So we have specially designed trucks that are meant to transport glass, and what I mean when I say that is they have a steel plating inside that helps secure the truck. Glass is very abrasive in nature, and so they're specially designed trucks that are taken here to our facility. And when the glass is broken down, and I won't get too much into that process because I would love to give you all a virtual tour later at some point. Essentially, it's turned into a material called cullet, which is essentially a fancy word for recycled glass. And that recycled glass is sent down to southern Utah, specifically to Nephi, to the Owens Corning facility, to be made into fiberglass insulation. That's where a good chunk of it goes to. The rest of it is used for abrasives as well as bottle making. We actually are sending brown bottle glass now to our facility in Colorado, and our facility in Colorado is swapping non-brown glass with us, just because there's better industries for each one of those products in the neighboring states. Glass recycling, I always say it's good for Utah. If there's anything that you can, if you laid out all of your recyclables on the table, your cardboard, aluminum, paper, plastic, glass recycling is one of the best things that you can do for Utah, mainly because glass is heavy, and so it has to be a local closed loop system. And so when we talk about it, that it creates jobs, it literally creates jobs right here in the valley. And then it also cuts your waste disposal costs, saves energy. It's endlessly recyclable. And so I can touch on a couple of those points in more detail if you have questions on that. But it is probably the best material that you can recycle of all the materials available for you to recycle. So I want to touch base real quick on your existing glass drop-off location. This dumpster here actually that you see on the screen is a new dumpster mural that we actually did at the Liberty Park location here in Salt Lake City, and we're actually doing a second one of those coming up. And it's kind of our effort recently and going into next year to basically take these glass dumpsters that just look like a blue dumpster in the middle of some parking lot someplace where a lot of folks from out of town don't even realize that is a glass drop-off dumpster, to make it more into a art installation that folks, it kind of catches their eye, and then also these communities that host these drop-off locations, they feel proud about hosting one of these. So we'll see more of these popping up around town. And so to touch on your existing location, it's doing great. You can see the history since placing in 2015, the tonnage per year is steadily climbing. I think last year you did 49.3 tons. I think this year you're on course to do about that same amount. We haven't received a load yet for December, and it's usually about 5 tons. So you're going to be right about there. And then I wanted to mention real quickly, and I didn't want to get into too much detail on these, but there is another option for drop-off locations, and that's what we refer to as these glass pods. Probably see these. There's about 7 or 8 of these around Salt Lake City, and then other areas around the valley. Basically what it is 4 carts, very similar to what you have at home. They have a hole cut on the top, and they're secured with a lock, and they're on a steel base. And what's nice about them is that you don't need to have a huge location to put a roll-off dumpster, and those usually require 2 to 3 parking spaces, and and a lot of space to access them. Whereas, these can be serviced, where they can be placed really anywhere, and they can be serviced by our trucks that are already in the neighborhood serving residential customers. So I just included some information here on these alternative methods to collecting glass, which you can, of course, look at anytime. Basically, this breaks down the costs of what this whole setup is, and that's basically our cost to produce that glass pod there. And then we have a separate service fee for that too. So, that's, again, just an option for any city that wants to use one of these. But as we talk to more folks, just wanted to make you more aware about those glass pods. So getting into the curbside program, I think I'm about halfway through my time, so I'm doing okay. I wanted to tell you about how it works, how the existing programs that we are operating, how they are performing, kind of what we think the mid-bill program will end up looking like in terms of number of subscribers, and then you see how this program impacts existing drop-off locations, as I mentioned. So basically, how does it work? Folks sign up online. They sign up directly on Momentum's website. We have some other cities that we work with that when they put the information on their website, they have the resident click a link that directs them directly to this dedicated page to your city on our website. They can select a reminder. It's only a monthly collection, and so a lot of times folks have a hard time remembering when their pickup day is, and so we send them either a text message, email, or a phone call reminder. We also have a mobile app that they can download as well. We deliver their bin within about a week, and then we use our collection trucks to facilitate the collections. So there's no contract. It's kind of like your Netflix or your gym membership. You can sign up or sign off as often as you want, and we auto charge your credit card at once a month. So this touches on the mobile app, as I mentioned. It's a nice way for folks to look up their collection day. It also helps the residents know what goes in a particular bin. This has actually helped some other cities. This is an additional tool to kind of have available to residents. Really, anybody can download this and get directions on what can and can't go in their recycling bin, as well as in their particular glass bin. And so we have a little waste wizard on there that they can use to look up certain materials to see if it's accepted in the recycling bin or if it has to go into the trash stream. The one thing that's fairly unique is we do offer administrative access to the cities that we work with to the exact same system that we use every day. And so at any time, 24/7, if you wanted to log in and see, well, how many of my residents are actually subscribed to this service and how much glass have we diverted through our drop-off location versus through our curbside service. All of that information we make available to you there at the city. Any one of the administrative staff can have a login and access this information, so it's very helpful. If you notice these color-coded statuses here, where you can see kind of where residents are at in the process even. So if they just signed up, you can see if they're just about to receive their bin or if they're pending the receipt of their bin. Every little minute detail is available for you to see. So how are the existing programs doing? One note is that when I was talking to Glenn Kennedy, he said not to include Salt Lake City information. So I just included the cities with Wasatch Front, which is Cottonwood Heights, Holiday, Mill Creek, and Murray. That's what they first launched with, and they've since added Taylorsville. Going from left to right are basically the cities that we've set up since. And so we set up Park City in January last year, and then Sandy City in July last year, followed by Taylorsville of this year, and then Draper, this is recently as March of this year. And basically what this table shows is what the monthly fee is that they pay, what the activation fee is for that particular city. We've kind of honed in on this $25 up front. Essentially, a bin costs us about $40, and so we invest about $14 into each customer to help them get started with the service. And then the blue section there details how many households are there within each one of those areas, how many subscribers there are as of the end of last month, and then what that looks like in terms of the participation rate. So in Salt Lake City, where that's the longest running program, that's up to about 17% of the homes now participate in the program. Wasatch Front, they're up to about 4%. Park City's gone up pretty quickly. So you can kind of see what's the participation rate of all the homes in the city that we kind of expect or see with the other locations. And the average tonnage per month that's collected from the curbside program. So looking at I included this overview. It's 6 different graphs, but essentially what this shows is the growth of the subscribers over the last year. And if I ran it back even further, you would see the same trajectory. They all slowly grow, right, month over month. There are a couple months where they go down, but we are very fortunate that the popularity of the program just seems to kind of snowball, and you can see that with how these programs are trending over the last year. And so the Midvale program, just like we did in Draper and in Sandy, basically some nearby cities, it would be $8 per month with that one-time $25 activation fee. We're kind of approximating 70 subscribers to start. I think that would be what we'll end up realizing right away. But usually when we have the city's support, that jumps up a lot. So we were thinking, if the city even highlighted it in one newsletter or even on their social media, it could be as high as 200 plus homes. And I will tell you that the city of Sandy did a great job of really getting behind the program. They put it on the front page of their newsletter one month. They had some social media blasts, and we were out of inventory on our bins. We were about a month behind on restocking our bins because we didn't expect them to actually have so many folks sign up. But if the city just even helps inform residents that this service is available, folks do listen and sign up. So I wanted to talk just real quickly about how does adding a curbside program impact an existing drop-off location. So I wanted to take the example of Sandy here. They launched, as you saw, in July of 2019. And what essentially happened is that adding the curbside program had the opposite effect on the amount of glass that was being put in the public drop-off locations. And basically what was happening there, and we've seen that happen in other cities as well, is once we get out there and we start telling people that you actually can recycle glass, a lot of times they'll say, well, I don't per se want to sign up for the program right now, but is there any other way I can recycle my glass? And it then raises awareness about the public drop-off location that they didn't even know about that's half a mile from their house. And so we actually saw the volume go up year over year in those first several months, and it's kind of stayed up a little bit higher thanks to that awareness just about the curbside program and going out there and really letting residents know that you can recycle your glass in this example in Sandy. And as another comparison, does the addition of curbside subscribers impact the drop-off tonnage? And so on the left, you have the total number of subscribers for Wasatch Front going back the last calendar year, and then what the volume from the drop-off locations look like on the right. And that kind of squiggly line up and down on the top shows you kind of how their volume is fluctuating as they've gone along. There's kind of a slight trend line going up, but it hasn't drawn away from their drop-off location volume. And I always use this example. A lot of folks say, if you want, it's kind of the folks that either do you want a home gym or do you want a gym membership? And a lot of folks, they want that nice Peloton workout bike for their home gym, whereas other people just want to pay $10 a month to go to the public gym. And I have found over the last 6 years of doing this that is exactly the case with glass recycling. A lot of folks, they don't want to haul it to a drop-off location, and so they'll just put it in their trash. But if they have if they have access to a curbside program, they'll pay for that. And so it's kind of different opinions or preferences as to what type of service they're looking for. Second to last one here, I just wanted to mention, residents do really love this service. We are so fortunate to have a lot of folks very supportive of the service, and as they've relocated around the valley, they kind of helped spread the word and helped grow the service. And so we have folks every single day on our website submit their interest for a city where we don't already have the service, and we keep track of those residents as an interested resident for when we expand the service. One thing too to consider is, of course, is, population in every city around the valley seems to be increasing, that the amount of glass increases. One rule of thumb in the industry is that per person, each person generates about 70 pounds of glass per year. And so I took the recent population of Midvale from funded as 2018 and multiplied that by 70 pounds per person. And that comes out to about 1,700 tons per year. And then, so that's where when we talk about indirect cost savings, that glass is somewhere in the waste stream. And if that is ending up at the landfill where you're paying $18 per ton, that's probably what is showing up there is that $31,000 a year in your tipping fees. And so when we talk about how to maybe this could have some indirect cost savings, glass is so heavy. So having residents volunteer to sign up for this program and pay directly for it should help the city extract that heavy glass out of the waste stream where it might currently be going. So that's all I had. I mean, I know we went kind of 100 miles per hour here, but I always invite everybody to come over for a tour of our facility if you've never been. We've actually been doing virtual tours. And so right behind me here, you can kind of see some of the equipment outside the window, but I put on safety equipment and do a Zoom, and I'll walk out there and go step by step right through the process with you. So it's pretty exciting. And then if we're hoping that you'll help us promote the launch of the program to raise awareness to residents. And that's all I had. I hope I'm staying within my time. So
well, you did good, Jason. I've certainly never seen a better proposal for glass recycling. All right.
Thank you.
Are there questions that you would like to ask Jason while we have time?
Jason and Mayor, I've got some additional information and questions.
Okay.
The Waste Wizard, is that updated per city, or is that just a template? Because most cities have different education programs and criteria on what can and cannot be recycled. So what's the update process on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I know that there's a push for the big three about a year ago in terms of the acceptable recyclable materials. And we can actually bulk update our database. Basically how the whole Waste Wizard was constructed was based on a database of all of these materials, and then we went through and tweaked all of them for how those can be recycled locally here in Salt Lake Valley. And so we have been actually fine-tuning these as we need. And so we can also, if there's a certain material where say up in maybe Park City, it can go into the mixed recycling bin, but in say Midvale, it cannot. We can actually delineate that within the app itself and in the description. So it'll say Midvale residents, Park City residents, and it can more clearly define how the direction that they should take with those materials. And also, so too, if they come across something that's not showing up in the app, it's a quick kind of 2 clicks of the button to suggest that material to us. We actually go through every month and go through those suggested materials and make sure that we have a correct response for them. So nobody else will search for those and not be able to find them. So I hope that helps answer your question.
No, that's perfect. And then I will preface that I am a proponent of glass recycling. I'm a proponent of Momentum. I've been familiar with your organization for a number of years, had at least 3 tours there.
Oh, great.
But I do need to tell the other side of the story to do my job and just make sure that everybody else has all of the information here.
Okay.
So if I could share my screen, if there's no other questions from council or mayor for Jason.
I'd just
Go
like
ahead,
to know how
man.
we get that better looking dumpster.
That I agree with that. That dumpster was nice.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thanks so much, Mr. Glover. Yeah, we got a tremendous amount of feedback from that. The next one to clue you in is actually going to have a winter theme. So we're hoping to tie in kind of the Olympics and stuff to kind of speak to Utah's kind of winter heritage. And then we're actually working with a few different art nonprofits to look at finding different local artists in each city to paint their dumpsters. So yeah, we've done it mainly. It's usually the cities pay for half of it, and then a nonprofit does. We might also find some private partners. So we're just kind of testing the waters right now, but we're hoping that it'll be a big year for these dumpster murals in 2021.
Jason,
Cool.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to reiterate in my emails, I said that, people have been clamoring for this for a couple of years that I've been on council. So I couldn't be any more excited about it. And I hope we can, do what we can to partner with you to get as many people subscribed as possible. I think it's great.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, Glenn, you had some comments?
Yes, if I can share my screen.
So I'll stop sharing my screen there for you, Glenn.
Oh, we're on Zoom.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we're definitely
hang on.
on- Definitely on Zoom, Glenn.
I've been looking for my Teams share button. So, okay. So we'll start. Can you see the screen?
Not yet.
Ooh, let's try that one. Can you see that? Oh,
No.
wait, there.
Okay, it's coming. All right.
Is it a spreadsheet of sorts?
Sure is.
Okay. So what I did here and then sent this over to Jason and we've kind of collaborated on the info and some of it we disagree on and some of it we agree on. But so for the drop-off location that we currently have in Midvale, I took our annual tonnage, went back 12 months, got last year's December number to get the full 12 months, divided that by the cost to the city for haul costs. And so the cost per ton for that location, to be clear, this is cost per ton just to get it to the recycler, okay? That's about $40.49. If we were to just landfill it, which I'm not suggesting, I just want to make the point that recycling does come at a cost. If we were to landfill it, the annual cost to landfill it would be $800. So the net annual cost to recycle is $1,000. The 1726 tons that Jason said that he pulled from well, it says Murray here, but I believe Midvale, you said in your presentation. If we were to landfill those tons, it would cost $31,000. To get that same amount to the recycler, it's closer to $70,000 with the dumpster drop-off location, which is the most efficient method. So really, it's going to come at a cost at about $40,000 to the city. So it costs more to recycle. Not that I'm saying we landfill everything. I just want everyone to have the full picture. And then as you go through each program, I'll actually share a different
Hey, Glenn.
different screen here. Yes.
You mind if I said one thing about that?
Nope.
spreadsheet there?
Absolutely.
So on the cost to haul up on the city annual cost in C2 there, that is the cost to haul that dumpster, which I think is $165 per month. That's the haul that glass dumpster here, and we don't have a tipping fee. They're
Correct.
free to tip it here, and so then to compare that to column F. And by the way, you guys would probably love to listen in on Glenn and I's conversations all week going back and forth. I've enjoyed it, honestly, because I like being challenged by this, and I love digging into these numbers. So, but one thing I mentioned was in the annual cost of landfill of that $880. That's if we took that tonnage and put it in the landfill, but it doesn't incorporate any haul fee to get it from wherever it's at in the city to
Correct.
landfill.
That on a curbside program, you're right. However, our waste hauler or our garbage trucks are already out on the street, so that transportation cost is already accounted for. So I'm just taking out the tonnage of glass to come up with the cost. Okay. And all of this is not to come up with the total cost to recycle the glass, right? Yeah. What I'm trying to show is the cost to the city and or to the resident just to get the glass to you.
Okay.
Glenn, can I ask a question? If this is a subscription-based service, why should it cost the city any amount of money?
I will, if I could get this next slide up, I've got a little more information there. Oh, it's down here. I am just not as good as Zoom as I am on Teams, so be patient.
We see your dumpster drop-off site, pod style drop-off site.
Oh, you see that slide?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, sweet. I did it on accident. Okay. So this slide is a representation just to compare the programs, dumpster, pod, and curbside, based off of, to borrow a word from Jason, looking through 4 lenses. Okay. The cost per ton, carbon emissions and energy consumption, city time managing, and resident convenience. And I made this joke earlier and some liked it, but nobody slipped you acid. The colors are just to tell a story. Obviously, the dumpster drop-off site is the most economical. It has the least amount of truck haul time. You've got one truck going straight there with grabbing a large load, going right back. Pod style drop-off, there's more trucks. The cost per ton goes up a little more than $100. There's more truck and haul time, which isn't great for the environment. And then there is more staff involvement to manage that. There'll be more maintenance, communications, etc. Resident convenience it's not the most convenient, and same with the drop off. And when you get to the curbside pickup program, this is the cost to the resident. And so the cost is in red at $843 per ton. However, the green, it's paid voluntarily by the users. So there's not necessarily a monetary cost to the city. But it is the least environmentally friendly option. You're going to have a large truck driving through most streets in the city to pick up 1 or 2 bins per street. Resident convenience, obviously, this is the most convenient. And I'm totally fine with whichever direction we head. I just want to make sure that everybody has all the information and understand that recycling is not free. It's actually more to than landfilling.
One thing, Glenn, and this is where we've had kind of our discussion this week is, I mentioned how I think that the top one is probably a little low because it doesn't include a tipping fee, as we're not paying a tipping fee here at Momentum. Definitely the pod stuff in terms of city involvement, that definitely, if the city does ever decide to place those, that's where, your Parks and Rec team, for example, has to swing and probably stop by and look at that occasionally. We do most of obviously all the maintenance when we service it. We'll clean up broken glass, that type of thing, but there probably is some involvement there. And on the curbside program, the cost per ton, that's an average from the other city programs, but when it comes to what the actual resident is paying to have access to, a cart weighs about 55 pounds when it's filled with glass. And if you take that over the course of the year, and then over the course of what they're paying through the year, which is $96, it comes out to a lower cost per ton, which I indicated in the other spreadsheet that Glenn was showing there. I think it's around like $100 and some per ton.
Well, yeah, that was, we were kind of telling different stories there. You were trying to include your transportation costs, and I'm not looking at that right now. I'm just looking at the cost to the resident per ton, and that's why that number is so high.
Yeah, and yeah, so there's I think we're kind of touching on the different ends of how to look at the service, but definitely. If you're at a cost per ton, for folks that have it picked up at their home, that's where it is more expensive. Is it that exact number? It might not be, but it's going back to your home gym equipment costs a lot more than a $10 a month gym membership.
And and again, I don't want to get completely hung up on the cost. You know,
Yeah.
there's 4 criterias here: cost, you know, environmental impact, city time managing, and resident convenience. But I just wanted to have the council have all of that information, and I'm good unless there's other questions.
What do we need to do as a council? Do we need to decide on what we want, or are we just full steam ahead with this program? Because I would like to be full steam ahead with the curbside pickup program. I mean, if it's a subscription-based model, then, you know, if, for one, you know, no one's obligated, obviously, to buy into it. However, if we as a city partner correctly with Momentum, then, you know, it won't just be a truck going down the street for 2 or 3 homes. It'll be a truck going down the street for, you know, a vast majority of the homes in my, you know, that's my ideal world. So
That's a good question, because what we basically presented here was us to go directly to residents right away. Same thing we did up in Park City, and that we plan to do in about 7 other cities to start off the year. But there also is another version of the program that where the city kind of takes it under their wing, and they can charge the service fee for it on the resident's existing utility bill. That's the same model that we have with Draper and Sandy City and all of the Wasatch Front cities. And in that program, of that $8, the resident pays $8, but the city actually collects 25 cents on each one of those pickups. And so there is a little bit of revenue coming in from the program that way to cover any, you know, staff involvement or to help offset any other costs. But this one is basically to your point, plug and play. It's ready to go. We can start as early as February 1st, and that's really all. The one question I did have, and maybe more for Glenn, was if there's a specific type of business license that we would need to provide the service in Midvale. So.
Yeah, I apologize, Jason. I was going to research that earlier today, and I didn't get to it. But I would just need to research our code. Each city's kind of got a different code on how they handle waste haulers and licensing and things like that. But we can gather that info.
Okay.
is this something that is then going to come back to us hopefully soon to vote on as a council, yay or nay?
I don't know if that's up for me to decide.
Yeah, I believe that's up to you.
Okay.
Speaking to council.
So if I think there's probably agreement among at least 3 council members that, you know, we would like to see the program go, you know, as I said, full speed ahead. So maybe if another council member or 2 could weigh in, because again, I don't want to wait until, I don't even know when our next council meeting is, but the holidays. So I don't want to come back the first week of January with another discussion item on this. I'd rather the first week of January be, you know, actually marketing the program.
So the question is, we don't have to, I'm saying this out loud to make sure someone can correct me, but if they just want to go, we'll figure out the business license thing, but there's nothing to vote on. But if we wanted to somehow do the version where we're more involved, I guess that would require some sort of vote. So, I mean, I guess that's part of the discussion needs to be what that role is for us.
But that's not the curbside pickup, right?
Correct.
Or am I missing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I just one thing that someone needs to research the code a little bit because it might get muddy where we might have to tweak it to allow a private company to collect waste from residential units. That's where it's going to get muddy. I believe in our code that it says that's the city's responsibility. So there's some gray areas here. I just want to make sure that gets vetted out.
Is ACE not a private company?
They are a private company, but we contracted directly with them. And,
I get it. I
and,
got
and
you.
we and
And then we collect the fee.
there was
Yeah.
yeah, and there was an RFP process and that this is
Yeah. I get you.
this is somewhat of a, like the example would be a construction site bringing in a private dumpster. A lot of cities have codes that, direct how that can and cannot be done.
Would you need to do an RFP if there's only one company who offers this service in the area?
Lisa, can you help there?
Well, if the city's not expending money, but yeah, if there's only one company that can do it the way, then probably not. But I need to look into the code, but I mean, I can do that for you, Glenn, and look in to see what it requires.
That would be terrific. I know that some codes actually require private haulers to report quarterly and provide some sort of a fee that covers their large trucks on the roads and things like that.
Yep.
But I am not familiar enough with our code to provide good info right now.
I believe we would have to amend our code because all residential waste is under the control of the city. Commercial waste is not.
Correct.
It sounds very much like other cities that we're working with, and how they're modifying their city codes right now. We work with ACE on a lot of hauling. We do our public drop-offs up in Park City, and we partner with them on a lot of things. So we have a great relationship with those guys. So I'm sure they'll definitely be. I know they're already excited about us expanding the service into Murray and also hopefully into Midvale and everything. So yeah, we're all in support of it.
So Dustin, I know you really want to push this forward, but I think that we're going to need a little bit of time just to gather all the info and make sure we're doing things correctly.
Okay. And do we have a meeting on the 22nd?
Of
No, our next meeting is January 5th.
Okay. So is that enough time to bring us back something that after January 5th, we can say, yes, we voted, or yes, we moved this forward, and now we have a curbside pickup program starting February 1st?
I will commit to try.
I think we could do that. I know that we could get the code amendment done. So yeah, I think that's doable.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
I
sounds
think
great.
Dustin, I do think we ought to vote on it though as a council to make sure that, I mean, I'm in favor of it as long as if we do the curbside pickup, but I still think we need to have a vote, which we could do at the same time as we do everything else, but
Yeah.
We do have to for the code, right? For the code amendment. Will we have to vote on that? Lisa,
Yeah.
how does that work?
Oh, yeah.
Assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd have to amend the code by ordinance.
So, yeah, so I think, Councilman Glover, we inherently have to, if they're going to do the curbside.
yeah, I'd just like to have it on the record that we're for it or against it. That's all.
And just so I'm clear too, is it, because it sounds like there is the version where we just allow it to occur and momentum does everything. And then it sounds like there's a version where we can at least promote it, or we can discuss how we could promote it and let momentum do it. Or there's the version where we do curbside, where we put it in our utility bill and operate it in that fashion. Is there a direction that you guys are interested out of those three versions that we would go? Or am I misunderstanding, Glenn, that those aren't actually three versions? There's only one version of curbside pickup.
I think the middle one is what we would want. We help promote it. Momentum does all of the pickup, obviously, and billing as well.
Okay.
And then I guess we would just need a liaison to make sure that the waste wizard is accurate, and things like that.
Is the waste
So I
wizard user generated kind of, is that what
I
you
know-
Actually, Jason, is there a option just to remove that wizard, and so that messaging is just simply coming from the city? Because we already struggle with messaging from Rocky Mountain. You know, we've got Transjordan, we've got surrounding cities around us, and I think it's best if we're the point on that.
Yeah, we it's available to anybody who downloads the app right now. We would have to customize
The Midvale app.
on each one of the material searches. I can look though to see if we can have it be a geocoded based search result. And so that way, if somebody who's looking up an address that is in Midvale, they are not shown certain results. But I can look that up.
Perfect.
And also, so you know, too, I mean, we if we end up, we provide this service, and after a couple of years, the city's like, hey, it looks like it's going great, and the participation rate's gone up to this amount. We would like to look at now taking this under our umbrella, and having it be part of the city's utility bill, or maybe at some point even doing an opt-out program. We're definitely open to that too. So just want to make sure that everybody knows that.
All right, this has been a good discussion. I think we've got a task for the city to take care of. Jason's got some things he's got to look up.
Yep.
And we'll get back together in early January at our first meeting with some details, and we can fine tune this.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for the conversations this week.
Oh yeah, definitely. I appreciate everybody's time.
And thanks, Glenn, for your input on that.
You bet.
Okay, we have one more item in our workshop, and that is to discuss the future of the basketball site at 695 West Fifth Avenue, right on Main Street. So Cody Hill, Patrick O'Brien, would you join us? And let's see, Glenn, you might have to take down your screen.
I might be able to commandeer it. We'll see. Oh, maybe I not have to. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate your time, council members. So we've got about 14 minutes before City Council starts, so we're going to do this pretty quickly. So I will share my screen, and we're not actually asking you to vote on anything tonight. What we are looking for is more direction in what you'd like us to present for you to vote on. And so borrowing a little bit from Stephen Covey, we're going to begin with the end in mind. So when we get to the end of this little presentation, we're going to ask you for direction on what you would like us to formally present to you to vote on as far as the future of that rec site, that basketball court adjacent to the senior center. And the 4 options that we kind of have laid out are: 1, keep it as a rec site; 2, a daycare and housing concept; 3, send out an RFP for private development; and 4, an alternative, some other direction that you like, or a hybrid direction. And so those are the 4 options that could potentially come out of this. So again, we're talking about this basketball court site. It's right here, that little green square right there in the middle of our Main Street CDA. It's 0.32 acres. It is currently a basketball court rec site. It is not in a great state of repair. It's definitely usable, but option 1 is you would keep it as a rec site. And if it was this option that you're leaning toward, we would recommend that we invest a little bit into it, make it a better site that would attract more users and get more use out of it, because it is currently underutilized. And some considerations are that it is having recreation and gathering space is recommended and promoted in the small area, the housing plan, and the project area budgets. And then some questions to go along with this are: how will a rec site benefit the area? What are the disadvantages of preserving it as a rec site? And would another use provide a greater benefit to the residents of the area of this and to the city? And then because we're running a little bit late, short on time, I'm going to pass it over to Patrick to discuss the next two options, and then we can just kind of discuss them collectively on that last slide. So go ahead, Patrick.
Thanks, Cody. If you can just stay sharing your screen, that would be useful and less time consuming. So from earlier on in our small area plan implementation and our housing plan, when we were putting everything together, we spoke with a lot of stakeholders and community members, as well as speaking with some business owners and other people who have interest in the area. And some of the things that came up were the need for a daycare facility, and they saw Main Street as being a good place to have such a thing. So that's the reason we're looking at at a daycare and housing concept for that site, where it will be ground floor daycare use with upper floor residential, because we think residential along Main Street on the upper floors is a very good use of space, and it will bring additional vibrancy to the Main Street. There are some additional questions that are at the bottom, but I'll move on to the next point if that's okay, and we can discuss other things at a later stage. I think some of you may remember that there was an RFP approved by the agency board a couple of years ago when Annalise was here. Unfortunately, we didn't get a proposal that we followed through with. So we were looking at perhaps sending out another RFP for the use of developing that property, if that's something that you wanted to go with. As with all of our, all of the sort of options that we've presented to you, we are looking at each of them as being something that kind of fits in with the small area plan and the housing plan and the Main Street budget. So we think any of these would be a good option, but we're kind of looking for the elected officials' input on what they would see as being in the best interest of the community.
Yeah, like Patrick said, we don't really have a vested interest, or we're not pushing for any one of these options. We'd like to know where the agency board, the city council stands. And again, we're talking really from a 30,000 foot level on which options you'd like us to flesh out, to explore, and present to you in a formal way that you can decide on. And so
this is Councilmember Brown. I would prefer, so with option two, I guess before I comment, option two, who would build this daycare housing concept? I don't get that it's not tied into that RFP. Does that mean that would be something we'd be doing, or we'd go looking for someone to do that? So it could be either of those options, and that's why we're kind of bringing these ideas together. Is it a project that you would see the RDA sort of spearhead? I definitely don't want the RDA doing it. I would prefer a private entity. Well, I don't see as operating it, but I'm just talking about in terms of us acting as the developer and trying to secure someone to operate the facility. But that's one of the options. The other is to kind of incorporate it into an RFP, or else to get someone to develop it privately.
We did get proposals last time, right, with the RFP? I mean, it's not like they were cricket.
No, we got three or four proposals. I wasn't involved in that process the last time, but I do know we got a number of proposals, and one was selected, but the financing of it wouldn't work out. So I think that's
it was going to be like a brewery or something like that.
I honestly don't know. As I mentioned, I was kind of left out of that process before, so it wasn't something I have deep knowledge of.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can speak for myself, but I think the RFP makes the most sense. We've done it before. We had proposals. Financing fell through with one of those proposals. So why not try that again? We were all, and this wasn't long ago. This could have been at the very end of 2019, I think, or 20.
I think it was 2018. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it's not like a decision that was made by, a completely different council. There's just one new council member since we decided on an RFP for this exact site. So I think that's probably the smartest way to go.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I just wanted to understand how that daycare and housing would work, but I'm on the side of the RFP.
And the RFP could come back with a daycare and housing
That's
concept.
concept, right? That's why I was like trying to visualize how that was different. But yeah, I go for 3.
Does anyone know, Cody or Patrick? I did get some pushback from some folks who lived in the avenues who wanted to see a basketball court remain. Do we have any data, even if it's just looking out your window when you're in City Hall to see? I feel like it's not used as a basketball court very much, if at all. So do we have any data that I could point
Cody,
to?
do you want to mention its current use? I know it's still called the basketball site, but if you want to mention some of the what we've done before.
We had the pickleball. Isn't that going to be at that site?
Yeah, we worked with a 501c3 nonprofit, Just Don't Quit, and it was being used for pickleball, but the court wasn't in a good enough shape to attract better players. So it was used for a while to kind of workshop, introduce the game to newer players, but the pavement needed more work before it could really take off as a successful site to attract pickleball players.
Which, for the record, if someone, if the RFP came back for a rec site use, we would be okay with that, right? If some company wanted to run, Glenn hated that idea, apparently.
Sorry, I thought I was muted and I was not.
Well, Councilmember Brown, it kind of depends on what sort of way we go with the RFP. There were certain criteria that we had asked for with the previous one. I don't know if you want to keep the same format. There are some updates to it in terms of form-based code needs to be included as something that needs to be adhered to. But in terms of all of the criteria for the actual development, if that's something you want us to continue with, it probably would somewhat exclude a recreational facility.
Got it.
But
yeah, I wasn't sure.
That, and I can circulate the previous RFP just for your information if you do want to go with item 3, and we can update it and bring it back for approval.
One thing to consider that if it does remain this kind of basketball court side, or it could be labeled as a public park, which would be a community location. So it would prevent certain types of development south of Main Street. So if it was, considered a public park or a public recreation site, then it could be, it would prevent, pubs, bars, state liquor stores as far down south as 2nd Avenue, and restaurants that serve alcohol as far south as 3rd. And so that's just one thing to consider as far as usage for that site.
Well, I personally wouldn't mind having it a rec site, but if we're going to keep it a rec site, the city's going to have to put some money into it and make it something really nice. You just have to, I'd love to see it stay that way, but the way it is, I don't think it needs to stay that way. So that would be a decision if we're really going to put some money to make it something good.
Yeah.
And honestly, in the past 3 years, I've never seen anyone playing basketball there. I've seen people there, but I've never seen anyone playing. So I'm just saying the argument of several community members that have, said, I want it to remain a basketball hoop or basketball court. That would be great if it was being used frequently as a basketball court. So I think
that's
from
my
perspective. We're looking at the best possible use for that site, but also something that would lend to the rest of Main Street, that it wouldn't just be an island on Main Street, that it would contribute and enhance the entire surrounding area.
Any other thoughts? It sounds like Councilmember Gettle liked the RFP idea, Councilmember Brown as well liked the RFP idea, and Councilmember Glover liked the idea of a rec site if it's going to be better utilized and improved. Any other thoughts on that?
My concern with keeping it as a rec site is if we have to limit restaurants or bars or anything like that, that seems like that could have some negative implications on the development on Main. So I'd like to see the RFP.
Okay.
And Matt, do you remember, I know you were in charge of this at the time, I believe. Do you remember wasn't it a brewery or like a micro brewery that wanted to go there?
It was a mixed use development that was going to have residential above, a barber shop, a coffee shop, and yeah, it was like a brew pub or something like that on the bottom level.
Okay.
At the time, the discussion was that there was a difficulty getting financing because of the number of vacant spaces on Main Street. And while I think the developer had solid projects in the past, I couldn't speak to the amount of effort that went into trying to find alternatives to financing it at the time. And so because he couldn't find something, it fell through.
Okay.
All right, I think we have adequate direction from the City Council / RDA Board. Appreciate your time, and we will return with a kind of a formal RFP that we will propose to you that we would like to send out to see what response we get.
Very good.
Thank you for your input.
You betcha. Thank you both for pulling some data together, and we'll see if we can make it move the rock this time. Yeah, I have 7 o'clock. So I want to welcome everybody to the City Council meeting on this 8th day of December. Gosh, 2020 is just about past us. Yay. This meeting is an electronic meeting without a physical location pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-207 as amended by House Bill 5002. I, Mayor Robert Hale, as chair of the Midvale City Council, hereby make the determination that conducting the meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. This determination is based on the fact that the city is unable to ensure compliance with the guidelines and public health protocols mandated by the state's current risk phase. As restrictions take place across the state for limiting public gatherings, the city wants to make sure that everyone interested in participating in city council meetings can do so. The meeting will be broadcast on a YouTube link, and you can also provide public comments. If you will email your comments to Laura Magnus, her email address is lmagnes@midvale.com, or comment on Midvale City's Facebook page prior to the completion of the public comments portion of the meeting. You may also submit comments if the mayor and city council open a specific agenda item to public comment. These comments will be read aloud in the meeting and will be part of the public record. We'll now have our Pledge of Allegiance. I invite Chief Thomas to wave his flag and all of us to stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Rory, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Councilmember Robinson,
Here.
Gettle,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
and Glover.
Here.
And Councilmember Sperry is excused.
He is. Thank you all for being in attendance. Is Representative Steve Christiansen here? There he is. Welcome, Steve. Welcome, Steve. If you'll take yourself off mute there.
Hi, can you, let's see, you cannot see me.
There.
There we go.
Can see you and hear you.
Wonderful.
You wanted a few minutes to present to the council some of the steps you're going to take to honor those first line people in our cities that help us all stay safe.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. Is your police chief and your fire chief on the call?
They are. You can see Randy Thomas and Brad Larson.
Okay, wonderful. I see them now. Thank you very much. So what I would like to do just for a few minutes in this folder right here, and I have 3 copies of this, one for you, Mayor, and also one for your police chief and your fire chief. In this folder, there is a citation, but it's the good kind of citation, not the bad kind. This citation was drafted, approved, and signed by the Utah State House of Representatives, or members of the House. Not all of them signed, but I would say the vast majority of them did sign. And if I might, I'd just like to take just a minute or two to read this citation. As I said, it's a positive citation, recognizing your great contributions to our community and expressing gratitude for all that you do for us. Would that be okay if I read this?
Please do, Representative Christensen. And
then what I would like to do at some point is find a way for me to hand deliver these to each one of you. In West Jordan and also in South Jordan, when I've done the same thing, I've also brought a few dozen donuts that you guys can distribute however you choose to do it.
Oh, man. Okay. They'll meet you at the city boundary and take you right there.
I will come wearing a mask and with an armload of donuts and 3 black folders in my hand, okay?
Sounds great.
We just need to work out the logistics and figure out how to get that done.
Okay.
All right, very good. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. Utah House of Representatives citation honoring Utah's first responders. So this is obviously not just for police and fire, but also many others who are on the front lines day in and day out, and who literally sacrifice their lives in so many ways for the good of our community. Whereas the state of Utah and its citizens benefit every day from the good work of highway patrol, sheriff's departments, police departments, dispatchers, emergency medical technicians, fire departments, search and rescue, frontline workers, and other good men and women who work as first responders. And whereas Utah's first responders have specialized training to be the first line of help in emergencies, natural disasters, and other catastrophic situations. And whereas first responders put their lives at risk and go into harm's way to protect others' lives while making split-second decisions. By the way, I can't even imagine how difficult some of those split-second decisions must be. And whereas first responders across Utah exhibit bravery, reliability, and moral fiber in fulfilling their duties. Whereas during 2020, first responders have exhibited the aforementioned qualities during a tumultuous period in our state's history. Now, therefore, the undersigned members of the Utah House of Representatives recognize the many first responders across the state for their contributions to our communities and their exemplary work in protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Utah. and deserve the appreciation and respect of the people of this state for the merit, dignity, bravery, and reliability they exhibit each and every day. And then, as you can see, there are on multiple pages, many signatures, probably on about 5 or 6 different pages, many signatures of members of the Utah House of Representatives. This has been a challenging year for all of us, quite frankly. And unfortunately, I think that some of the first responders, especially the police force, the police department, law enforcement throughout the state have had an especially difficult year. And in my personal opinion, we would not be the kind of wonderful community and state that we are if it weren't for first responders, the police department, the fire department, and many, many others. Those who have called for defunding police departments or law enforcement feel differently about the service of those who put their lives on the line every day than I do. I personally feel extraordinarily grateful for your service and your sacrifices, and I was very, very happy to be able to sign that citation. And I especially look forward to delivering a copy to you and some donuts. So as soon as we can do that, you tell me when.
Representative, we'll have my administrative assistant get with you, and we'll set up a time when you can drop by. And then the police are always there. The fire department's always there. The mayor skips out. He stays home most of the time. And but we'll make an arrangement, an appointment. We'll meet you at City Hall and begin the process of conveying those.
Okay.
We do appreciate you very much. Thank you, Representative Christiansen.
Absolutely, my pleasure, and thank you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. We love you, and God bless America.
Thank you. And we invite you to tune in and join us at any of our city council meetings. You're very welcome to participate in the public comment or any agenda item that you'd like to present to us.
Well, thank you very much. I actually logged into this meeting about 45 minutes ago, wondering if I might be able to just get in and see how things are going. But I think there must be a different way for me to join. So I'll have to work with your assistant to figure that out.
We can help there. Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Thank you.
Take
Happy
care.
holidays to you too.
All right. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we'll turn now to our report, first of all, from our Unified Police Chief, Randy Thomas. Welcome and thanks for your flag, as always.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. I'm humbled by the words we just heard, and I'm thankful to the Utah House Representatives as well as Representative Christiansen. I can't agree more with police, fire, frontline medical. We don't have a choice. We have to go to work, and we certainly we recognize those that don't need to and have the opportunity to stay home. It's much safer to do so. But those were actually, I was going to mention, we, even in our police department, we've had COVID related, and now currently are at 100% within our precinct. Most recently, we had 3 different employees out that 2 appear to be work-related exposures, and the other one, the entire family got it. So whether it's coming from younger kids to through the schools, we're really not sure, and it's still up in the air. So just very humbled by the words and the thoughts. So I really do appreciate it on behalf of the UPD. Sheriff Rivera, Under Sheriff Peterson, and Chief Mazarin, I don't know if they're still in the building tonight, but they came by after hours and basically just sat down with those that wanted to participate in a Q&A. And COVID was discussed quite a bit during that, and kind of, the mask mandate and what is our direction. And, what we looked at is, look, we're really after education and getting through this as a team, as a community, as an environment where it's safe to go out. Try not to spread it. We're, anticipating in the future the vaccinations and hopefully putting a period on this. I never would have imagined we'd be, a full year later and probably not made much headway other than terrible statistics. So we are trying to keep everyone safe here, but I was really happy to hear that those that have contracted the virus within this precinct have recovered. I haven't heard any within UPD, any extreme issues with it. I did hear that on the sheriff's office side that a family member had recently passed away. So it touches us all because we are one family. I don't have, I've got our UPD analyst, but she takes care of me. She sends statistics before they're completely, she knows when the council meeting is, and I might have bribed her with some coffee here and there, but she was able to give me some statistics, not enough to do a complete report tonight, but I can tell you that as far as our caseload in November, we had 805 cases, which if you look at our trends, that is the lowest case number in November we've had in the last 5 years. So we feel good about that. And it's not a matter of our officers not being proactive. Our citations, we wrote 600 citations, and 517 of those were penalty citations for traffic enforcement. So we are out in the communities. We are out working the corridor, those high crime areas, trying to keep us as safe as possible. So it's good to hear that our statistics are reflective of good police work, proactive police work. Typically you would think that proactivity would bring additional caseload, but when we look back at our shelter unit, when we added more detectives, we thought that we'd see a lot more cases. What we're seeing is a little more compliance. So that being said, I want to make sure all the council members got an opportunity to look at the model of the WinCo. It was requested at the last council meeting that I forward the model of the WinCo homicide to you. I hope that you all got a chance to get that and review it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those questions on that. I want to thank Mayor Hale for attending the Finance Committee meeting today. I'm not going to brief what he's probably planning on briefing later. I don't want to overstep my bounds there, but it's really good to hear Lisa Dudley's audit is looking like UPD did very well. There's some the auditors are happy with the progress we've made over the last 3 years. There's some really promising budget. We're way ahead of the budget game this year as far as and just for transparency, that I asked for a flat budget with the exception of my operating expense in training be increased by 20%. So just my training expense, and that was my only budgetary increase request. And we should see, with the exception of once the actual direction for the compensation comes out of what percent of market we want to look at, we should see a very early predicted budget cycle well in advance. And I know that's been the direction or ideal direction of the council. Winter parking. I wanted to touch on that because theoretically we're going to get a storm this week. I know Glenn's probably really excited. If we get beyond that inch, we do have the new citations. It's just a warning citation. We've got pre-planned to go out there and in phases hit a lot of cars with just a warning to educate, to let those know that when we get those big storms, we want the cars off the streets so that our public works can have free reign to get that snow and ice cleared up immediately. Want to recognize Detective Paula Stinson. She's actually been assigned up to our White City and unincorporated area, but she was she's got 23 years of service. She's retiring. She was an old Midvale City police officer and had quite a career. She's a great detective, and she has 2 more days left. and then she's going to start enjoying her retirement. So I wish her all the luck in the world. I want to recognize also, and I think I sent this to the mayor and Kane, and I don't know if I sent it to the rest of council, but we had a citizen bring by, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Valine Nizer? Brought a whole handful, and these just showed up on my desk, of challenge coins. And they were she heard the last meeting where I mentioned the trauma that a certain shift had been going through almost repeatedly through just their general police work. It was really neat to hear that we have citizens listening in and recognizing what we go through. And it's not just us, it's fire, it's all the responding personnel. But she dropped out a little handwritten note along with a handful of challenge coins that we gave to that crew specifically. I gave them to that sergeant and let him disperse those as he wished. And then just today, just randomly, I got a note, or a voicemail on my phone from a Marilyn Wooten, I believe. I couldn't quite hear the message, but she just thanked us for being here, keeping our community safe. It's pretty inspiring to hear the community supporting us, and being able to share that with you is special to me. So I don't have a lot more to brief on tonight. Council, do you have any questions for me or comments?
Hey, Chief, I was just wondering, the officer involved shooting that happened, I don't remember when, but it was a Friday. I do know that. Has the major incidents board looked at that, or has there been any final report on that?
No,
shooting?
it's not even to a point where if it was in queue for the major incident review board, so the district attorney has not ruled on that at this point. When that's done, there'll be an internal affairs investigation. At that point, if at the sheriff's discretion, she can forward that for review to the major incident review board. Just on the major incident review board, the upcoming UPD board, there will be a resolution to admit or submit the 6 that I mentioned before. And obviously one of them's from Midvale. I'm excited to have her on board, and basically get all entities or partners on the UPD board to adopt these civilians as part of this review board. And Chief Mazur just forwarded that resolution for me to take a look at tonight. So they will get called in. My intent is to bring that board together prior to the first of the year, if we can fit it in the holidays, and really just introduce each other, so that we know backgrounds, we know the folks, the citizens on this board are fascinating. Their backgrounds are from very hard life to, one's an attorney, a labor attorney, and retired and just wants to be involved. So we look forward to that. But if that answers your question, there's still quite a process. And especially with officer involved critical incident, we let it go completely through all the other investigations, and then we take a good look at it.
Okay. Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting, anything other than just curiosity into the process. It's happened in other communities. It hasn't happened here in Midvale while I've been a council member. So I was just curious as to what that process looks like.
Yeah, and if any council would like me to share the copy of the actual policy that we drafted and kind of went through the works, if you just email me, I can email you a copy of that policy directly.
Cool. Thank you.
Certainly. Any other questions, council? Okay, thank you. And happy holidays if we don't get a chance to meet again. I really appreciate your support, and I hope you all have a great holiday.
Thank you, Chief. We hope the same for you. Stay safe. Okay. Chief Larson, would you fill us in on what's going on at UFA, please?
I'll be happy to, Mayor. Thank you. Council members, it's good to be with you tonight. I really appreciate Representative Christiansen and the thought that the state legislature would recognize the hard work and sacrifices of fire and police and other first responders. And I think, that really should include our doctors and nurses and those that work at clinics. Especially during this pandemic, it's been very trying. our firefighters and staff, they get up every day and leave their families and respond to many calls that put them in, harm's way medically with this COVID crisis. And speaking of that, we have had a bit of an increase. But I just really appreciate Representative Christiansen's kind words and the citation. And anytime I hear citation, I think bad right off the bat, just because of what I do in fire prevention. But it was good to hear a citation, the good kind like that. And Mayor, he mentioned donuts. You name the time and place, I'll be there. So
we'll let you know, Chief.
Okay. A COVID-19 update. We're continuing to monitor the trends that are occurring within Salt Lake County and specifically within our communities. With the recent surge of cases that followed Halloween and that have recently occurred since, we've seen a slight increase in the number of our personnel testing positive. Most of those have come from outside the job in contact with other individuals when they're off. We've been able to address this concern for the most part through the implementation of rapid testing and adhering to the continued mandates that the state and county have given us. And we also have our own internal practices, which are in line with the CDC and county health department in regard to our personal protective equipment and social distancing. We will be closely monitoring the weeks since Thanksgiving and appropriately address any concerning rise in cases. So we're watching it really close. We've activated our incident management team to look at this every day again and make sure we can continue to provide the service that's necessary to our communities. Even with fire inspections, COVID's had an impact. We're being very cautious with the licensed care facilities, the memory care facilities, and other high-risk nursing home facilities and those type of things. We have got a really good procedure for virtual inspections down to ensure that those facilities remain safe and still protect those residents and ourselves. So that's been working really well. Real quickly, a strategic plan update. We're in the final stages of development for the strategic plan for the 2021-2023 strategic plan. We've gotten all the comments and everything back from all the groups that we met with. Command staff's going to give a presentation to the division leaders tomorrow morning, and we'll be able to start working on our action items for the plan, which really helped us in our budget process. Where we have the strategic items that are important to the communities, we can focus our budget and planning on those items so that we're sure to accomplish them. The captain's process has been completed. We had 27 candidates that started. We finished with 21. That list will be good for 18 months, and that's the list we select new captains from. We've had quite a few captains retire here lately, so this list is very timely for us. And we're going to start a battalion chief's exam in the spring of 2021. I have some sad news. The passing of retired paramedic Doug Robinson. He's been retired from UFA for about 5 years. He's had a long, accomplished career in the fire service. A large portion of his career, he served the Magna community as a paramedic at Station 102. And after 30 years, he retired from UFA. He also worked as an EMT paramedic for Davis County Sheriff's Department for a period of time. And even after his retirement, he still continued to work with firefighters as a peer support counselor. Firefighters that may have been suffering from post-traumatic stress or other issues, he was a great support for them. And his passing leaves a huge gap. He's remembered as a dedicated and amazing paramedic and all-around great guy. And our thoughts are with his wife and family as they process their loss, and we share in their grief. I just wanted to mention that. More on a personal note to Midvale residents, just a few things. There was a house fire last Friday morning. This was at 479 West First Avenue. The fire was I think limited to a single bedroom in a portion of the house. The crew arrived there quickly, stopped the fire from spreading anywhere else, so it was contained to the contents and the room. And they were able to extinguish it with the tank water in the engine that they carry. It's about a 500-gallon tank on the fire engine. So they got there quickly, acted quickly, extinguished it through the window, and were able to save the rest of the home. They notified Red Cross, gave them the family's phone number, and then also contacted UDK, which is Utah Disaster Cleanup, to help the residents. The Midvale crews, they've been really busy, not only with the calls that they've been going on, but also with some training. And if it's okay, I don't want to take up a lot of time. I've already taken up a bunch, but I think it's important if I can share my screen for a minute.
Feel free.
Picture's worth 1,000 words, right? And, I can tell you about their training, but if I show a few pictures, and I wish I had a few more pictures, hopefully you're able to see that.
Yeah, that's coming through well. Now you're muted.
Sorry. I don't know how that happened. Maybe my fingers. Anyway, we're still training during the pandemic. It looks a little bit different. Your fire crews for Midvale, Station 125 and 126, were involved in some multi-company training out at the training tower. As you can see, they're all wearing masks and keeping social distancing intact. And the weather wasn't that great, but they were still out there training hard. Here they're doing a high rise or a low rise. You have some low rise buildings in Midvale, but they're carrying a hose pack into the training tower. And I wish I had a picture of that, and carrying and stretching the hose up the stairway to wherever the simulated fire is on the fire ground. They also participated in with the hazmat teams in some hazmat training this past month. Up in the far left, you can see that's a what do they call it? Words have escaped me. I had this. It's a space where there may be a lack of oxygen, confined space training. With the hazmat crews, where they put up all the rigging and the ropes and practice getting down into a confined space where there may be a hazardous air environment and performing a rescue. So some very good training. They're staying on top of things. They're staying prepared to serve the citizens of Midvale. One final thing, if anyone of our citizens out there that are listening or know of anyone that may be interested in becoming a wildland firefighter, now is the application period. They can go on our website, www.unifiedfire.org, and start the application process. That's all I have. Are there any questions for me? Well, thank you very much. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year.
Hey, Chief Larson, sorry, I have a quick question. I was on mute. That confined space location that you showed, is that a training facility or is that an actual confined space?
That's an actual confined space. I'm not sure where they were on this.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Anytime contact different cities and work out different areas where we can practice.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
It kind of looks like the big tank for Jordan Valley water up there west of Bangor Highway, about 7,200 south, more or less.
Very well could be.
Well, thank you, Chief, and happy holidays to you and your crews too. And we'll be getting back with you here shortly when we can set up a time when Representative Christiansen can meet with you and present that proclamation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next part of our agenda calls for public comments. So I'm going to ask Laura Magnus, have you any public comments this evening that have been received from our community?
Yes, Mayor, I do have one public comment. This public comment is from William Bustos. I've been informed Midvale City will be listening and or deciding the fate of Midvale City's Main Street basketball court this coming Tuesday. I'm hoping my following thoughts can be shared with the City Council. For the last 6 to 7 years, I've been closely watching Midvale City develop into a destination location for shopping, living, etc. In addition, I've been impressed with the demographic range the city now represents in its community. Interestingly, Midvale City offers a unique advantage over many of its neighboring cities on the south end of the county. Midvale City has a beautiful downtown Main Street, a jewel in the county that has been under-leveraged for many years. Its historic buildings with charming sidewalks arguably makes Main Street the last opportunity available in Salt Lake County that can offer a living experience similar to downtown Sugar House and Park City's Main Street. With the right vision, Main Street can be the nucleus for significant growth and quite possibly much more, including hotels, fine dining, etc. Surprisingly, I've been told Midvale City is considering a few options, doing nothing at all with the basketball court, or collaborate on a daycare business with multifamily component above, or go out for an RFP. Respectfully, doing nothing at all with the land would be a waste when Midvale is ripe for growth. With so many Utahns living on the south end of the valley being tired of driving downtown, as well as having limited options for dining, Main Street could be the answer everyone is looking for. The second option, offering a daycare use, seems counterintuitive to attracting other businesses into Main Street. Consequently, allowing the development of the land for mixed use between office or retail and possible multifamily above would complement the growth mindset needed for a strong and stable business community in downtown Midvale. As a business owner of 2 companies, I consider Main Street an ideal location to relocate either of my businesses. In closing, I recommend Midvale City's leadership step back and reevaluate its long-term vision of how they wish to see Main Street playing a role in Midvale City, as well as the contributions it could make to Salt Lake County overall. Thank you for your consideration. Warmest regards, again, William Bustos. And let me double check that that is the only one that we have received, and it is. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Laura. Those are great comments, and those are the considerations the council and our staff are making. And we appreciate that input because it lets us know where a business owner feels about the development of Main Street over the next 5, 10, 20 years. Thank you. Okay, we'll begin now with our council reports and begin with Council Member Paul Glover, please.
Yeah, this evening, I'd like to express my thanks to all of our staff and our employees, our Unified Fire and Unified Police that have taken care of our citizens, and our council members, working with each of them. Appreciate all that you do, and Mayor, appreciate you leading us. It's been a hard year, but it's been a great year. We've accomplished a lot, I think, and we've tried to work together peacefully and do the things we can best for our citizens. I just appreciate that and hope everybody does have happy holidays, happy Christmas, and a great new year. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Glover. We'll move to Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank Nate responding to my email in regards to the parking structure by CHG. I appreciate sort of being kept in the loop. That being said, it still sounds like there really isn't a plan. The plan is just to wait until there's a plan. And for being this like super newly developed area, a half-built parking garage is one of the worst eyesores that can exist. And there was one that was downtown next to the DJP law firm for a while, and it was there for like 15 years, and it just became a place where everyone tagged. And so I'd like it, to find a way for the city to keep us informed, quarterly, monthly on this. I understand CHG wants to do it. I also understand they were hit hard. That doesn't mean we should just sit around with a half-built parking garage because CHG one day wants to grow. I don't really like that that's sort of where that's going. They either need to do something with it or not. Since, we were help funding some of it, I feel like we should be able to push pressure on that. I just don't like it sitting. Like, it's just, if this time next year we're talking about it, it would be a loss for Midvale to have a half-built parking garage for that long in our, sort of golden area. So, if we can keep pressure on them and work on that and keep us updated as much as possible, I'd appreciate it. Other than that, I don't think we're meeting again until January. So I wish everyone, safe and happy holidays and the new year, and kind of echo what Glover said. And that's all I really have.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown, and we wish the same toward you. Next, Councilmember Dustin Gettle, please.
Just a few quick things. I wanted to, get the good stuff out of the way first. Happy holidays to everyone. And yes, it's been a pleasure to work with everyone as well. We very much mirror a lot of our own families, I think. We have disagreements at times, but I think at the end of the day, we all respect each other a great deal in the jobs that each and every one of us gets accomplished. So happy holidays, happy new year, all that good stuff. All the pleasantries out of the way. Second, I just wanted to again reiterate, now that we've gotten more folks living back in the Jordan Bluffs area, I have noticed in my 2 daily walks through the neighborhood, the traffic from 7800 and Bingham Junction Boulevard is still a little Wild West like. Pretty much any time the lights change, you can find 2 or 3 cars zooming through the red light there at the intersection at any given time. And I just don't want to see it become, we've had some major issues at 7200 and Bingham Junction Boulevard, a lot of accidents there. Not so much since the construction's been happening, but before then there seemed to be an accident every couple of weeks down there. So I just think we could perhaps do some targeted enforcement, especially on the folks running through the red lights, because it's if you go there, to that area, the red light is such that pretty much it dictates 2 lanes of traffic at each time. So, the likelihood of a major accident happening there is pretty good, especially with the speeds that are being achieved. And okay, so that's it on that one. So Chief, maybe if you can have your guys just keep an eye out. I'm not saying, start pulling everyone over, but there are some major offenders as far as, running through that red light goes. So I'd appreciate that. Also, finally, I just wanted to go over, I've done this on the Midvale residents page, and a lot of people found it to be helpful and insightful. So I just wanted to take a look. We have the updated November COVID numbers for Midvale City. And, as you can imagine, it's, pretty bleak countywide, statewide, nationwide. But I just wanted to break down the comparison between October and November as far as our cases here in Mid-Val City go. So in October, we had 538 confirmed COVID-19 cases. In November, that jumped to 967. So nearly double. It's a 80% increase in just the raw number of cases in Mid-Val alone. And, once in a while you hear the folks say, well, that's because there's more testing. So in October, we had 2,900 tests. In November, we had 3,600 tests. So that is an increase. It's about a 12% increase in the total number of tests between October and November. So, you would think that if the testing is 12% higher, then you would hope, at the most that the cases would be 12% higher and not 80% higher. So there's definitely a disconnect there in those numbers. We have remained fortunate. I don't know if fortunate's the right word, but we've had 2 deaths in October, 2 deaths in November. Sadly, in October, one of the deaths was a person that I know pretty well, who's a social justice kind of advocate. She moved from Cottonwood Heights to Mid-Val. She's managed a couple of city council members' campaigns. She passed away in late October from COVID-19. So it has, hit home in a way that, for me personally, that it hasn't before. And I know, I'm not sure I can't only speak for myself on this, but I'm sure, unfortunately, as the pandemic hits its worst phase, which is expected next week and the next following weeks, hope and pray to God that it won't. But, I assume that it's going to start affecting us as a city, as a council, in a way that it hasn't before. And I just hope that it doesn't, but these numbers are just not sustainable. It's just a matter of time before someone we know very well and, perhaps a family member, just doesn't make it. I can't put it in any other positive words other than that. So what I wanted to say, we kind of, I'm not going to blame, one city, but, just as a state as a whole, we've kind of dropped the ball significantly on COVID-19. We're seeing cases, case counts in Utah that just, are not sustainable. As I said before, we have about 4 million people in this state, and, our entire state is a hotspot of COVID-19. So whatever we can do, we've had a talk tonight about our first responders. I'll weigh in with my own opinions on this. One of the best ways to honor our first responders is to wear a mask when you go outside of your house. I think well-deserved the proclamation that Representative Christiansen read, but just if you want to laser focus on what you can do right now to honor our first responders, our police, our fire, our ambulance crews, it's wear a mask when you go outside. Do it for them, do it for yourself, do it for your friends. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Gettle. Good reminders there. Moving on to Councilmember Heidi Robinson, please.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just going to keep mine very brief and echo Councilmember Glover's sentiment for everyone to have happy holidays and a glorious new year. Can't wait for 2021. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got a few things. I think that one of the grand opportunities as a mayor is to perform marriages. And this last month I had a unique opportunity. We've had a grandson living with us most of the year, dating a young lady from Lehigh. And they chose the Saturday before Thanksgiving to wed. And Grandpa Hale got to perform the civil ceremony at a location in Provo, a reception center. And those are fun days. And that afternoon, they went on down to the Payson Temple where a grandfather from the bride's family sealed them for time and eternity. So it was a double blessing for two grandpas. And we were very, very pleased that time. That was my 5th marriage as a mayor, and 3 of them have come during this year because a lot of the normal routine for marriages is closed down. Reception centers and temples and all that. So a lot of civil marriages were performed, and it's an honor to perform those. I think we are finally getting some idea of the arrival of the COVID vaccine. It started in Great Britain today, and we will have it probably in another 10 days here in the United States in full force among, I know they're distributing it right now. And as soon as it's approved on an emergency basis, not a permanent basis, but an emergency basis, that it will start to be applied. And it appears that our first responders in the medical, I'm going to take that back, not first responders, the medical field will be the first ones to receive it. Those that work in hospitals, clinics, and others that deal with the initial response to those who are ill. And in the second group will be the first responders. So our police, fire, and ambulance, and doctors, and those that work in other clinics, like our CBC clinic, will be in that second part. And then the elderly, 65 and older. So Paul, myself, Kane, Brad, perhaps, us that are in the older half of the generation will have an opportunity to get that taken care of. And then we're hoping then by the end of July, everyone should have an opportunity to be vaccinated. And we're hoping that everyone will promote vaccination so that we can put this COVID-19 behind us. The road home had an outbreak of COVID-19 in this last part of November. There were some 50 individuals that had to be isolated. Since they're family members, I don't know how many families were involved, but it was a large number of people. And so they went into kind of an emergency mode over there to protect everyone. But it appears that the peak is past, but they need to be extremely careful, and they recognize that, and they're working on that. I want to remind all of our city council that every Friday there is a flu shot clinic right at City Hall parking lot, free to all who come. And if someone you know, a neighbor, a family member, a constituent in your district has not had a flu shot yet, they need to come over to City Hall and get that taken care of. The medical personnel, as they talk about the worst case scenario would be to have COVID and flu hit at the same time. It would be extremely rough to get through both of those simultaneously, since they have to be treated differently. On our UPD, Taylorsville, as you may remember, has decided to withdraw from UPD. And so they're planning on hiring up at the end of March or during the month of March. And so there may be some of our UPD personnel that work in Midvale that might be hired over into Taylorsville. And so UPD is planning on how to proportionately reduce their forces, not only in support services, but frontline services, so that they don't blow the budget and we still have the services that we pay for through our UPD payments. And so that's taking a lot of thought right now. how to right size UPD, starting later this next year. And I think that's all I have. Just everybody be careful. I want to appreciate Paul Glover's Christmas tree back there. Brought a little Christmas spirit in. Thanks very much for sharing that, Paul. Oh, there's Santa Claus. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Año Nuevo, Feliz Natal. There, I got all the ones in Freilich Weihnachten. There's the one more. So we'll see this group get together again in early January. Kane, let's turn the time over to you now.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be brief tonight. I appreciate the Representative Christiansen and what he did tonight to recognize our first responders and our police and fire. Also want to recognize our own unsung heroes for Midvale, which are our employees that have had to come to work every day and do their job, like Public Works and the engineering department and some of the court personnel, some of the finance people. Really appreciate what they've done through this pandemic and their dedication. And I haven't heard any grumbling. I haven't heard anybody complaining. They just come and they do their job. So I want to recognize them also. They're fantastic people. Secondly, I want to let the city council know that I've been working with the Employees Association, as you know, with this pandemic. We haven't been able to get together socially and do anything as a group of employees. We had to cancel our summer party, and looks like we're not going to be able to have our Christmas party. So the Employees Association came to me with an idea that they want to take the money that they normally spend on the Christmas party and increase the amount that they're giving to the employees in the Christmas gift cards, which I felt like that was called for and adequate in some way to recognize and let the employees know that we can't get together, but maybe they can take their family and get together and buy a meal. So I just want to let the city council know that there'll be an increase in those gift cards this year. And we did keep enough in the budget to hopefully have a summer party. We're being optimistic. So they have enough money in their budget to have a summer party next year. I think that's all I have, Mayor, other than I wanted to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, safe holidays. And, I just also wanted to, to Councilmember Glover's point on the pandemic and the virus, our employees in staying safe, and for a group of almost 90 people, we've done exceptionally well so far, and I hope we can continue that until we get the vaccine here and get everybody inoculated. So anyway, I appreciate all you guys do as a city council and mayor, and I appreciate all of the staff this year as we've gone through a very trying it is flexed this to the max as far as our abilities. So I really appreciate everyone, and thanks, Mayor. That's all I have. I think Laura Magnus had one item that she wanted to talk about, Mayor.
Very good.
Thank you, Kane. Yeah, I just wanted to give an update on the Midvale City Warm program, the program that provides a $200 gift card to eligible residents. We received 130 applications. Out of those applications, 100 people have been notified that they qualify, and they are either picking up their card on Monday, this coming Monday, or we are mailing it to them. 18 people didn't qualify because they don't live in Midvale City. 2 people didn't qualify for other reasons. And I'm waiting for information on 10 more people. I'm trying to get their information back from them. So we still have some cards available. So if you know anyone that would qualify, please encourage them to apply. I am working with the senior center to try to reach out to seniors because I'm a little bit worried about how they can apply online if they don't have access to the internet. So I'm trying to help them apply over the phone. I've been practicing my Spanish all week long. We received a lot of applications from the Latino residents, which made me really happy because I specifically did a Facebook ad to reach out in Spanish. So that's really good news. And just wanted to give everyone an update and thank the council members who are sharing this information. Thank you so much. And happy
Laura,
holidays, everyone.
Thanks for catching the non-Midvale residents. That would have been not good.
Right.
Good
right.
call.
I feel bad saying no, but that's one of the qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Great program.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll now go to department reports and begin with the Community Development RDA report. Nate Rockwood.
Sorry about that. I was pushing the wrong buttons. You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Good. Just really quick, I don't have a PowerPoint. I just wanted to do a couple of quick updates. You know, in terms of the CARES Act money that the Community Development Department was doing, the disc golf course has, for the most part, been put in. There's a few, the baskets will go up next week. And so that's going good. All of the small business grants that were applied for and awarded have now been paid out to the local Midvale businesses. So that program was successful and everybody complied with the terms of that. So that was good. Alex just wanted me to give you a quick update that the Midvale Mills project will be coming back in January for discussion. And so those notices will be going out. So if you start to hear people talking about the Midvale Mills project, you'll know why. It's because notices have gone out. Again, just commenting on CHG, the city and Gardner is working really closely with CHG to get them moving as fast as we can. So we are doing everything we can to put pressure on that development and everything we can to make that look good in its unfinished state, which is unfortunate. And then the only other thing is I just appreciated that public comment to hear about Main Street. The RDA staff and the mayor and I did a lot of informational videos on what the RDA is proposing to do on Main Street. And it's great to hear a public comment where they're asking the city to do basically everything that the city is going down the path of doing right now. So excited to get those videos out once they're completed and get those online so that we can actually share that message with the community and they can see how much effort is being put into Main Street. And we agree with the sentiment that it is really a jewel and that we're going to take care of it and we're going to make it into something not only that works for Midvale, but that is, you know, my hope and my dream is that it becomes sort of a jewel in an area for the Salt Lake Valley. Those are all the updates that I have. If there's any questions that you have for community development or RDA, I'd be happy to answer those. And if not, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Nate. Appreciate that update. We'll now invite Kyle Marr to give us an update on the administrative services.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few comments tonight. If I can get this slide to advance. First, just in the Justice Court to give you an update. So they have seen an increase in case filings, still not as much as last year, but it is an improvement. one of the major projects they're working on right now is automating the plea and abeyance process. So right now it's fairly manual. It involves calling the court and the court having to send a document out and having that document filled out and then sent back in. So as part of the CARES Act projects, we are looking to automate that. One of the great things our IT department came up with is we are integrating this with existing technology we already have. So the court uses a product called Chorus, which is mandated for all the state's courts to use. This will be integrated into our on-base document management system instead of being like another standalone product. So we're using our existing resources, and that will talk with Chorus. In addition, their revenue has seen improvement, which again, just for the public, the Justice Court is never intended to be a revenue producer. That's not what its mission is. It really is to serve the residents of Midvale and have their court needs done locally. But we have seen some improvement in their revenue. Our IT department, I mean, they're probably, I think I would get some pushback from some other department heads, but they've, in my opinion, been the department that's been going 100% since the pandemic began, and probably more than 100% talking with them. I did want to just give you a brief update on some of the projects we're working on. This actually isn't the full list, even though it seems like it. As part of the CARES Act, and we had discussed this a few months ago, is we have acquired a new phone system. Our IT department has been working on getting that implemented, and we've started training on that with a go live of December 18th. One of the features it has a lot is we will be able to completely move the phones out of City Hall if for some reason the City Hall had to shut down or there was some reason we couldn't come into City Hall. We are able to answer all the phones remotely, including the main lines into the city. One of the other major ones is electronic signature software. So we are doing an implementation meeting this week. So the next step after that would be training. So that's close to being wrapped up. I mentioned the plea and abeyance automation that's occurring that we spent 2.5 days last week working on, and those were very interesting. I've never gone through a process of creating a custom form or custom process, and they really do go through every single process, every single click, how this would look like for the end user. So it's been an eye-opening experience for me. Another one that is in the process is our system needs assessment. So just as a review, that's where we hired an external consultant to look at our current technology in the city and then look at potential areas that we could improve. We did get a draft document of their findings this week that we've been reviewing as staff. The next step after this, after we as staff have agreed on what's in the report, is they're going to do requests for information or RFIs to potential vendors that could possibly meet these gaps that we're seeing in our technology at the city. And this isn't the step to actually purchase software. So an RFI really is just to get information on what technology would offer. At the point the city's ready to move forward or we have the funding to do so, we would go through an RFP process, which is request for proposal. So there's still a few more steps, and this isn't leading to us purchasing new software. As I mentioned, we are doing some document management upgrades. That includes upgrading to the latest version. The thing that's exciting on this is we'll be able to automate more of our workflow that is manual process right now. I had one of the department heads during some of these meetings bring up that it seems like he's having to sign the same piece of paper 5 times. So this will help get us electronic on our workflows. We are also looking at using OnBase for grammar redaction software for the city recorder's office. The IT's been busy doing some final telecommuting technology purchases. The counties requested that we have all of our spending done by the end of November, so they were making a last minute push for that. And then finally in IT, we do have a new employee. His name's Noah. He's been phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that, our IT director is also saying that. So we're happy Noah's here, and he should be doing a great job for us. Over on utility billing, I just wanted to bring up a few points, and some of these are related to our discussions about some of the meter, not even meter issues, but some of the billing issues we've been having the past few months. So one is in the Midvale Journal article. In the Midvale Journal, I can't talk tonight. I didn't know that was a tongue twister. In the Midvale Journal, there is an article specifically talking about how the meters are read in the city and how we collect those reads. And it's in a FAQ format to hopefully break up just having paragraphs and paragraphs of text. And to go over some of the changes that we had discussed at a couple meetings ago was I'm still doing the sign-offs on our billings before they go off. We're going to go over a beta dashboard of some utility billing statistics. We did add the estimated read to the bills. We started doing more communication with the example of this article. And we are compiling a list of known meters that we know aren't working right now. Some of the other things I had discussed was we are working on a policies and procedures document that's just in its infancy stage. So that will detail out and it will be public, it'll be transparent to the residents, exactly what the policies are in utility billing, how we handle certain problems or items that come up and that type of thing. We have been looking at department workload and what we could possibly do to move things around to move more resources to assist with utility billing. I am working with our city treasurer on a possible meter replacement program to present as an option. So we don't have a circumstance of a not large number of meters going out at the same time again. A couple things that are on the radar, but we haven't started in finances, looking at possibly redesigning the water bill to make it clearer and easier to understand, and then an easier to use bill payment portal. So this is the first iteration of the utility billing dashboard. So at the upper left hand, it shows the number of counts we've billed. So as you may remember, we bill in 2 cycles. So we bill the east side of Midvale, and those are typically the Union Jordan accounts that we acquired from Sandy City a number of years ago. And then we also bill separately the west side of the city that includes, I call it original Midvale, but all of Midvale's one city. Includes Midvale and then of course the newer areas. As you can see, we have seen an increase in accounts year over year, and that's majority due to our Jordan Valley customers that we've added. Over here's on the upper right hand side is the number of estimated reads. So we have made improvement. November was the first month of our new billing procedures. So we did go from a number of estimates in October of 685 down to 352. I'm especially pleased with the treasurer and our meter reading tech getting our cycle 1 numbers down to 318. And we're going to go through the estimates, but the majority of those are known bad meters that will get swapped out with the next round of meter change outs. Oops. And while we're here, so at the bottom right is the reasons for estimate. As you can see, 282 of those are meters that we've identified that need to be swapped out. There's additional 27 that have gone bad that aren't in that range we initially identified as needing to be replaced. So we will need to come up with a plan for those. We have about 28 that the meter tech is actively working on, where he just isn't able to find the read, or excuse me, find the meter. Sometimes this happens because the meter's installed and it works great for 10 years and the meter tech's never having to touch the meter. The meter fails or has some issue and grass has grown over the meter or something's blocking the meter or something like that. So he's actively looking at those to try to address those issues. And then we have about 15 that have been changed out, but either utility billing hasn't seen the paperwork or there's a number mismatch, so they just want to double check and make sure everything's accurate before we bill the customer for that. And then finally, up the lower left-hand side shows our revenue build. So the red bar is 2019, and then the blue bar is 2020. There's a couple of reasons you can see these increases. One is those accounts we received from Jordan Valley. The second is we did use more water in 2020 versus 2019. Unfortunately, our accounting system went down this afternoon before I could start delving into those consumption numbers to get that into a more granular form. So I will have some more data next month on that.
Kyle, can I interrupt just for a second?
Sure.
So, you know, we don't work in the office on a daily basis, but, you know, I, for one anyway, have my city email open. I see a lot of messages, like, I don't know, maybe once a week, a couple times a week, that this system, Cassell, I guess is what you're referring to, is down. You know, I see ones that are asking everyone to get out of it for one reason or another. Is this a program that we're actively looking at replacing soon? Because it just seems from an organizational standpoint, if something's causing that much disruption among the employees, it's, you know, time to go.
Sure, let me address that. It's a great point you bring up. So one is you're seeing those emails saying they need to log on to Cassell and that if somebody can log out, and that is due to a license issue. We originally had planned on purchasing additional licenses, but due to the budget cuts we had to make for COVID, we did eliminate that project. However, with the new release in Cassell that we had to install today, it will allow, I would say, probably at least half of the Cassell users to not actually have to log into the Cassell console. They'll be able to do their work online, which doesn't require a license. To address the second point, Cassell is included in that technology needs assessment. One thing of note is that Cassell is one of the programs that a lot of departments use, so it touches many different employees in the city. So it is considered a high use product. And we'll have to see ultimately when the report comes out and we present it to you as a council and have those discussions where if a Cassell replacement is needed, where that would fall, or if it's an issue, we just need to use Cassell more effectively. But we are definitely looking at that as part of the system needs assessment.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great question. Over in finance, the external financial audit is almost complete. So our auditors have completed the field work. I spoke with our audit partner. He said we did a great job considering that they had to do almost all of the field work remotely, which is unheard of. Usually they do like to be in the office. But due to COVID, they do all their work remotely. We do have all the financial statements completed. We're working on a CAFR, which is a comprehensive annual financial report. It's a little more detailed than a standard financial report. We have done CAFRs in the past. Last year we did do financial statements, but we are going back to providing that full detail. And I've already put on the calendar, we will go through the CAFR prior to it being presented to the council, so you have an understanding of what's in the CAFR, and then how it's laid out and how to actually read those statements. Because I know there's a lot of financial data in there, and I'd like to walk you through what exactly you're looking at and how it's useful in the management of the city. Some other exciting news is we did close on the water, sewer, and stormwater revenue bond refinance. And you'd approved that as a council a couple months ago. And just as a reminder, we didn't receive any new money for it. It was just to refinance our existing bonds. I can announce the purchaser, the winning bidder was Chase Bank. While they are a national bank, they do have a local representative. I've met with him at another city, probably at least quarterly. He would come down and just check and see how the city's doing. So he does at least have he will have a relationship with the city. It's not just somebody back in New York. We got a great interest rate of 1.36%. That is fixed over the remaining term of our bonds. And then total savings will be about $844,000 over the rest of the life of the bond. And that will be split up between the water, sewer, and stormwater bonds relative to the amount of debt that was refinanced. And then finally, I wanted to give a brief update on the audit committee. I had scheduled the meeting in December for that, but talking with the auditors and not being sure when we would be able to issue the financial statements due to some questions about CARES Act auditing, I will need to reschedule that. I did also talk with our auditors about what we can do to make our audit committee better or any suggestions he had. One thing we're doing is normally the staff representative would be the finance director. We are replacing that with me, and that's due to the finance director is the one that is really doing the accounting of the city. He's the one managing our financials, and he's the one that prepares the financial statements. The thought was the audit committee and the auditors would feel more free to discuss things if somebody was there who wasn't directly involved in the day-to-day accounting of the city. I do have that background, so I will be able to answer any questions on how the finances are organized or how those finances are kept on the day-to-day level. We will also be looking to implement some GFOA's best practices. Some of these would include some audit committee feedback and guidance on internal control policies and other financial policies. It'll be a good thing for you as a council to have this committee to lean on and give you recommendations when those do come up. So I'm excited about that. So that'll be coming in January. So that's my report for tonight. Are there any questions or other comments? Great, thank you.
I think you did a good job. Thanks,
Thanks,
Kyle.
Mayor.
We'll now move into our consent agenda. On the agenda to consider the minutes of November 17th, 2020, and I'll entertain a motion on those minutes.
Mayor, I motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 17th. Any questions or comments on the motion? Let's see, Rory, do you want a voice on
Yes.
that?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Councilmember Glover,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Brown,
Yes.
and Gettle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The action items are now before us. The first one is to consider resolution 2020 R50, authorizing the mayor to enter into a cost sharing agreement with Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District for water vault upgrades. Maybe that's something like what the UFA was practicing in, huh, Glenn? Take it away, Glenn.
Sorry, I'm not really good with the mute unmute tonight. Yeah, we discussed this, I believe, last council. Jordan Valley is conducting a major pipeline reconstruct upgrade on a 33-inch transmission line. It runs across the valley, serves a number of cities. There are vaults that we have connected to that line, and it makes a lot of sense to get our work done at the same time while their line is shut down, and then also share in those costs. The fiscal impact for the total project on all three vaults is about $340,000. We've worked out funding. Staff is recommending that this be approved. Are there any questions up to this point? No. I do have the recommended motion highlighted if you'd like to move forward in that direction.
There's no questions. Let's take care of that motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution number 2020 R50, approving the mayor to enter into a cost sharing agreement with Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District to complete required work on 3 vaults as outlined in the 2020 Water Master Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this action item. Any questions or comments on it? If not, Rory, would you ask the questions?
Yes. Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Brown,
Yes.
Gettle,
Yes.
and Glover.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item B is to consider resolution 2020 R51, approving the appointment of Stacy Phillips to represent Midvale City on the Salt Lake County Community and Economic Development Advisory Council. You may know our previous or our current representative on that committee is Alan Litster. He has served on that for 6 years and has reached the end of his term and cannot be renewed. And so yeah, I took several names under advisement, and we selected Stacy Phillips to talk to her and see if she would accept that. With her experience on the governor's office of economic development, she was very happy to accept that appointment. And so I'm proposing that Stacy Phillips represent our city on the Salt Lake County Community and Economic Development Advisory Council. Her work will begin in earnest next month, and it will go till about the end of March. The community development block grants will come from the federal government through the state to the county, and from there, many applicants will put in for funding. There'll be NGOs and other organizations that require some hard funding and soft funding. And this council that I propose Stacy sit on are the ones that make, they read and read and read to understand every applicant's situation. And then they meet in council and make decisions at the county level. And then they report to the mayors of the county later in the spring. So I'd like to propose Stacy Phillips be our representative, and I'll entertain any questions the council may have on this position.
No question, Mayor. I did want to say Stacy reached out to me when I asked for community input and community interest on this board, and she was very quick to express her interest. And just having worked with her in the past on the community council and seeing the initiative that she takes in pretty much any project that you can think of here in the city. She's active on the community council. She's been a big part of Harvest Days, especially planning the pancake breakfast past few years. So if that's any indication of her work ethic and what we can expect from her, I think she's going to be a great addition to the board and is going to serve Midvale City very well.
Thank you.
I second what Dustin said. She's great to work with, both personally and professionally. So I think she'd represent us very well, our area.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion. I appreciate those two sustainings. Thank you.
Mayor, I will move to approve resolution number 2020 R51, appointing Stacy Phillips to represent Midvale City on the Salt Lake County Community and Economic Development Advisory Council.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and seconds. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. Rory?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Gettle,
Yes.
Glover,
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Our next item is to consider resolution 2020 R52, declaring the property located in Sandy City surplus and authorizing the mayor to execute documents to sell property to adjacent property owners. Lisa, would you like to help us with that?
Yes. Do you see anything on your screen?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. So if you may remember last August, we discussed this property that existed that is owned by Midvale. It's within the boundaries of Sandy City. It was a old railroad easement. UDOT owned it. Midvale had it was deeded in 91 by UDOT. We believe it was the intention at that point for it to then go to the property owners, the adjacent property owners, or the property owners who use that property for all intents and purposes. If you, and I'm assuming most of you remember this, there was a daughter of the property owner, the Greens, who own most of the property that thought it was an easement held by Midvale, but it turned out that we actually own this little piece of property. We then, you all were in favor of surplusing this property, providing that we made sure that we maintain access points for these southern properties. That we put it on the property owner to get it surveyed and to break out the different descriptions so that we can deed it to the property owners, which they've done. So we would ask that the council surplus this property. They're prepared to pay $700, which is what the county assessors has assessed this little sliver of property as, and authorize the mayor to execute the documents or the deeds necessary to transfer the property to these owners. Any
questions on this proposal? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 2020 R52, declaring the property located within Sandy City, parcel number 22-31-379-027-0000 surplus, and allowing the city to execute the necessary documents to transfer the property to the adjacent property owner, Lyle E. Coons, trustee of the Clayton and Sharon Green Family Trust, dated December 2nd, 2020, with an access easement granted to the adjacent property on the southern end of the property, parcel number 22-31-379-029-00000, currently owned by Major Realty LLC.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thanks for reading those long numbers. Now you know why we have computers, huh? Any questions or comments on the motion? Rory, would you ask the question, please?
Yes. Councilmember Gettle.
Yes.
Glover.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
And Brown.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our penultimate item here is to consider temporary zoning ordinance for monument sign standards in the Main Street form-based code zone. Matt, would you help us with that?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Earlier this year, after the pandemic had began, there had been some discussion amongst the city council members about the potential of putting a monument digital sign on City Hall property in order to be able to communicate with residents on important issues, particularly citing the potential to communicate about pandemic-related issues. Subsequent to that, we explored ways to use the CARES Act money that was available in order to acquire a sign to put on the city property. Through that process, we determined that in order for the sign to achieve our aesthetic objectives for a sign on City Hall property, branding objectives, and then of course being able to properly communicate with members of the public through that sign, the sign ended up being just a little bit larger than what is currently allowed by our zoning ordinance. It ended up being about 2 feet taller than what's allowed. And based on its width, that would make it about 20 square feet larger than what our current ordinance would have allowed. So one of the options that we would have, and also given the timing that we have for using the CARES Act money, we thought that it would be prudent to pursue a temporary ordinance that would allow us to build a sign on our property that exceeded what's currently allowed in the zoning. State law does allow for communities to enter into a temporary zone in cases where there's a compelling countervailing public interest. In this particular case, that the public would be able to utilize these, or we'd be able to use these funds, the CARES Act money, and following the normal process, we wouldn't been able to get that done in time. So that's why we're saying it's a compelling reason. In the memo, in the attached ordinance, we include in there a description of what the difference is between the current code and what we're proposing. And basically, the existing code says that a sign can be 6 feet tall and have a maximum square footage of 50 feet. What we're saying is that on a parcel that has a width or length that is greater than 600 feet, that you could have a sign that's up to 9 feet tall and 75 square feet per sign face. So in order for us to be able to put that sign in, what we're asking is that you would approve that temporary ordinance with which basically has those two changes to allow for the sign to be built. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Where's the sign going?
We'd be looking at putting it on the north, in that sort of open grassy area on the north side of the building.
Where like the Midvale City sign is? On that side of it, or on
the City Hall side of that intersection.
Other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 2020-0-20, an ordinance establishing temporary monument sign standards in the Main Street Form-Based Code Zone, MSFBC zone as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions on that motion? Rory, would you ask the question, please?
Yes. Councilmember Glover.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Brown.
Yes.
And Gettle.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, we're going to move to one that Laura can help us with. To consider resolution 2020 R53 approving the terms and agreement with Freedom LED LLC to install an LED monument sign at Midvale City Hall. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, before I start, I just want to make sure you can see my screen, the PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, you're coming through good.
Great, thank you very much. So we're going to move on a little bit after what Matt Dahl just discussed, and this is going to be regarding the agreement with Freedom LED, which is the sign company that we utilize for the LED sign over at Midvale City Park. And so we wanted to utilize them again here at City Hall so that I only need one software program to be able to upload all of the same content of messaging on both of the signs. In the staff report, I talk about how accurate and timely messages are crucial during an emergency. And Midvale City, we utilize a variety of communication tools to share important messages. And we wanted to add an LED sign at City Hall, as Matt mentioned. According to the US Treasury, this is a reimbursable item under the CARES Act. And so we are requesting to use $50,650 of the CARES Act funds to purchase this LED sign. The LED sign is custom. It will have our name on there. It is a monument sign. They have a very good warranty, 7-year factory parts and labor, and 1-year on-site labor on all LED signs. And then again, the Watchfire program is the program that we use for the graphics. This is the location of where we're putting the sign. It's not to scale, it's not exact, but this is about where we're going to put it. Some of the concerns I thought of is if people are driving out and they need to turn left, they won't be able to see, but they can't turn left. So that's not a consideration, not a concern. We took a lot of time and effort to figure out the best location. And there's a cone sitting on it right now. If you drive by, you'll see where it will be located. They do a much better job of the artwork than I do of City Hall. So this is what the sign will look like. And it's a total of 100 inches tall and 111 inches wide. But as you can see, that entails a lot of the brickwork and to make the design look really nice. The LED sign itself is 4 feet. The LED sign at the city park is 3 feet. And I really like that it's 4 feet because that gives us more room to be able to include messaging. On the park, I have to be very quick about the messaging. And it's nice to have a little bit, 1 more foot of room to be able to have additional messaging. And to compare, this is a picture I took at South Jordan. This is the community center. And this sign in comparison, our sign would be 1 foot taller and 1/2 foot wider. So just to give you a comparison of what it would look like. Again, our sign will be nicer at the top because of the logo box and the design that they have around it. So it will have some touches up at the top right there compared to their sign here. So it will have a little bit more finishing touches to it, but it'll be about 1 foot taller and 1/2 foot wider. And this is the recommended motion, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Laura,
Yes.
are we going to be able to promote? I'm guessing the answer is yes, but I'm just curious so I can tell the Arts Council. Like, would we be able to promote Arts Council and other things along those lines from this sign?
Yes, absolutely. Any organization that we're affiliated like that, we would be able to promote. Definitely.
And if that was in the presentation, I was clearly paying attention the whole time.
It wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't.
As I'm saying it, I'm like, I bet she said this, and she's like, this joke.
No, I didn't. That's
Okay.
a great question. No, that's on automatic. Let me go back.
Okay.
Is this the same company that did our one at the on Center Street?
Yes, it is. And that's why
Okay.
we want to use the same company because it's the same software.
Okay. And do they do any other cities that you know of? I say this because I just drove through the city of Bluffdale. And so Bluffdale has this LED sign outside of their city hall. And I looked at it and I said, there's something not right about it. It just looked, I don't know, it looked very gimmicky, like almost like a used car. And I want to avoid that kind of look if possible. Like I don't want it to be like a car dealership, like kind of gimmicky sign.
I agree. And when I talked to them, I did tell them that I wanted the best, the highest resolution that we could afford, obviously. And he assures me that this particular sign, it's going to be even nicer than the one we have at the park. And the one we have at the park, I think is really well done. So I didn't see, I don't know why it keeps changing. I did not see Bluffdale's. I drove all around and I took pictures of many, but I didn't go to Bluffdale. So
you and I have the same hobbies, I guess, is going around to other city halls and seeing what their LED signs look like.
Yeah, I did do a lot of research to make sure their sign is good quality and compared it to other cities. I mean, some cities have spent an enormous amount of money on their signs, and we can't do that. So I wanted to find the best bang for our buck.
Okay, that's good. I appreciate that.
Hey, Laura, I noticed that there's brick on there. Are we going to match the brick of the city hall?
Yes, and he even asked if he could speak to the designer of the building. And I was going to talk to Kane about that so that they could truly match up the brick.
Okay, good.
And I also was able, just so you know, to purchase. So you'll notice on the city park sign, sometimes there's just very basic graphics. And then sometimes like the one that we did for the Halloween event, that I paid for to be professionally designed. So they have a lot of graphics that we can use. But for example, if we're doing harvest days or anything like that, we want to brand it more. So I was able to purchase 6 COVID designs that will be branded with Midvale City's logo and our colors and our branding. So I was able to purchase that also with the CARES Act funds.
Excellent. Are there questions for Laura on this sign? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. And there's the motion.
Mayor, I move that we adopt Resolution 2020-R-53, approving the terms and conditions agreement with Freedom LED LLC to install an LED monument sign at Midvale City Hall.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, Rory, would you ask the question?
Yes, Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Brown,
Yes.
Gettle,
Yes.
and Glover.
Aye.
Okay, Laura, go to work.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll now move to our discussion item to discuss regarding legal considerations with the proposed banner program with CGI. I assume that's computer graphic images. Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor. As you may remember, we talked about this back in October. Where it was the banner program with CGI Communications was brought to council to discuss, and it involved the CGI Communications providing 25 banners in the city of Midvale. They would include the city logo and design, but 30% of the banner would also contain an advertisement from a local business that would purchase the sponsorship with CGI. The council seemed in favor of that program, and so we moved forward in reviewing the contract with CGI in the placement of these banners. As we got involved in the contract and looking into the matter a little bit deeper, we discovered that it could have some potential consequences that I wanted to bring back to the council just to make sure that you're aware and let it give us direction in moving forward. Our light poles, as you know, have they don't have anything on them now. I mean, they have our holiday decorations. That's why I'm stuttering, because they do have our Christmas decorations up there right now, but we don't allow a private entity to put anything on our publicly owned city light poles. Therefore, we haven't created a speech forum. As we looked into this, if we allow a private entity to place any kind of speech on our poles, we are opening up or creating what we believe is a limited public forum. So I'll remind you of our parade discussions that we had a little while ago. When a government has a public forum open, then the regulation of the speech that occurs on that forum or on our poles is limited. We have to be content neutral or viewpoint neutral, I should say, and reasonable in our regulation of those banners. So I just wanted the city to be aware that is an issue. If we had our own banners on there, if we owned the banners, we wouldn't be opening up a limited forum. That would be government speech, and we would not be subject to the First Amendment regulations or protections, because a government is allowed to choose its messaging. So this just means that I wanted the council to consider the options with respect to going forward with the CGI communications banner program. We certainly still can. We just need to make sure we have some rules or some policies in place prior to the placement of these banners, so that we can mitigate any exposure that the city may experience because of these banners. In looking at it, I just kind of wanted to present the pros and the cons, and then you just let me know if you want us to work through these issues with CGI. Obviously, this is free to the city. These banners pursuant to the contract is that we get 25 banners, and they will highlight the city's logo and branding. Also have community involvement with the local businesses. The risks or the cons are that we are creating a public forum in a place where we haven't before. So we need to make sure. Right now, we have no policies or regulations to control the forum. As I said, if we do, we need to put together some policies that are viewpoint neutral and reasonable. So that also means that we must live with controversial speech or anything that you may not think should be on the banner, or residents may not think should be on the banner. That would be something you as council would have to deal with. We have come up with some alternatives that we can counter the liabilities. Like I said, we could, if we go forward with the CGI program as it's proposed, we can create some regulations on the speech and mitigate those as best we could. Understanding that we are opening up that as a forum. And so if another entity came to the city and wanted to do the exact same program as CGI with, the rest of our light poles, we may be faced with a little bit of obligation to go forward with that. The other thing that we suggested to CGI is that we take ownership of the banners, that they prepare the banners, and then before they go on the pole, they become our banners. If they are our banners, they are government speech and they're not subject to it. We're not creating a new forum. CGI has been a little bit resistant to that, but again, I haven't pushed it because I wanted to know where the council is on that. If we take ownership of the banner, we would take the liability of the banners and replace the banners if they become damaged. The other alternative is the city has its own banner program, has banners that are just ours and owned by the city, and not do the CGI communication program. So I'm just looking for some direction. If you want me to pursue working through these issues with CGI, we certainly can do that. But I just wanted to get your input before I did that.
So Lisa, if you're saying, so if I own a business and my business is the Sick Rip Vape Shop, and I see these banners in the city, I contact CGI and say, hey, I want my this business that I just made up in my head that I can't pronounce anymore. I want my banner up as well. So how we own the light pole, CGI owns the banner rights. So we wouldn't be telling that company no, and we wouldn't be telling them yes either.
Right.
But you're saying that it could create a legal issue for us, even though we're basically contracting out the banner.
Well, it wouldn't. That wouldn't be as much of an issue for. I mean, that wouldn't be a legal issue for us. CGI has every right to deny them. They could say no, we're not going to sell to advertising to you. But if they do, the consequence to the city is you may have residents saying, why are we promoting a vape shop on a city-owned property? CGI has indicated that they wouldn't put any businesses up there that we didn't want, but it's not in the contract because we can't really put that in the contract, and I don't know who's going to tell them we don't want that on there.
Well, and that seems, as far as what you're telling us, that seems worse if we get into the business of saying, yes, you go in, no, you don't. Yes, you do. And what would prevent just the company that's not even in the city of Midvale from putting something up there?
There's not any, I don't think there is anything in the contract that I recall that says it has to be a Midvale business. I mean, that's certainly the idea.
Yeah, and that's something while you were speaking, I just thought of that. If we're contracting that out, you know, if I'm whatever business in West Jordan, Gardner Village, close enough, hey, can I put my business up on your banners? So I don't know. I think initially when I had mentioned a banner program, I just envisioned banners that you see in other cities that say, welcome to Midvale. Or, you know, even ones, we could have ones that say like, welcome to the historic avenues or something like that. Just very, very city specific. You know, the idea that was brought to us sounded great. You know, if anyone says, hey, we'll do your banners for free, all you have to do is this and this and this. So I think if it's creating extra, like it really just should have been like, you know, I thought we could actually use CARES money for that as well. And now it just seems like we're getting into a lot of extra stuff that, you know, I don't think any of us anticipated. And I don't think it's what any of us actually wanted as far as actually putting banners around the city.
Lisa, could a gubernatorial candidate pay CGI for political banners and we would have to accept them?
Well, that's where my recommendation is, that we would adopt some regulations or some policies surrounding that forum. And we can do that, and we can have policies of for example, in reading a lot of the cases, they've been upheld if you avoid political, religious, or any kind of advocacy advertising. And so we can put policies in place like that to control that forum. And I think that would limit CGI's ability to do that.
That was my biggest concern, because I don't want to have to explain to people why is the city putting this political candidate up, or that, and they're like, it's not us or whatever. But I don't really. It's hard to foresee what's the worst case scenario on something like this. You know what I mean? It's hard to foresee what CGI saying, quote unquote, they won't put a business in that we don't want, and the next thing you know, like there's a strip club, that's paid CGI, and there's a new CGI owner, right? And they won't honor that handshake agreement with Midvale or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm telling all these people I'm defending something that I don't really find that I want to defend. I don't really like it. I would rather us just do our own if we could, but I understand that is more expensive and it's time consuming, and Glenn's probably sighing at that too. The idea that his team might have to put that on a light pole. I was joking, Glenn, on that one, but I'd rather just do our own and just have like very generic ones that are Midvale specific. Welcome to Bingham Junction. Welcome to whatever Fort Union area, things like that. That I'd rather bring the community together than find a way to make money off of something. Or not,
and like you just said, Brian, I mean, we're not making any money. We're making someone else money off of our banners that already exist. I mean, not the banners themselves, but the ability to place them. So, I'm not going to say it's not a whole lot of work for Public Works, but I mean, literally, it's just hanging the banner on an existing structure that has poles for a banner. So it might take a day or two, but I wouldn't think that it would be, the worst work that Public Works does either. So, yeah, and I don't know. After we initially talked about this, I did look at the website, and some of their designs are I don't know. There's just I think the advertising comes off very strongly on the banners, which, you know, as city officials, I don't think any of us are really, I shouldn't speak for everyone, but, you know, I don't think that's what we would like to see as city officials and a banner in the city. I think we'd rather most of it, if not all of it, be dedicated to somehow promoting the city rather than business and industry.
Can I chime in real quick?
You just did.
Perfect. It's a lot more work than you would think, and I am not opposed to doing it, but I will say that you will need to provide the resources, and that would be staff and a bucket truck.
Can you tell me so on Bingham Junction Boulevard, we're lined with poles that have the two, there's a light pole going vertically, and then there's two horizontal poles for a banner to be hung on. I mean, what's the complication there?
Currently, we are having to drive a man lift up and down the main roads, which is one, not the safest thing to do, two, extremely time consuming. So it's really just the wrong tool for the job. If you want to add more things for us to put up, then we would need a bucket truck, which makes it safer and more efficient. And to your point about where CGI, you know, they get all the revenue under the first case scenario. Going back to curbside glass recycling, it's the same scenario. We're providing the service, but the private company is getting all of the revenue, and we still have the overhead. Now, again, we will do whatever council asks, but we will need the resources to do it. And as all of these projects and tasks keep coming, we're beyond the breaking point.
Hey, Glenn?
Yes.
Wouldn't a bucket truck be beneficial for other? Wouldn't a bucket truck be beneficial for a lot of things, though?
Correct.
We don't have one. I'm surprised we don't have one.
I am as well, but the decision was made to buy a man lift of sorts, which is not the
So
the
if you have
best
to
tool.
fix a light, if you fix a light like on my street, you use a man lift and not a bucket truck.
Well, the county fixes your street lights, and yes, they would use a bucket truck.
So when I email and ask a question about that, the county goes out and fixes it, right?
Correct. We're contracted with the county for that. But for hanging our Christmas decorations and anything that we need to do up high, we're driving a man lift truck from the park where it's currently stored in the Bowery, which is coming down, and now we need somewhere else to store it. But
is that something we can fleet at all, or do we have to buy one?
We would have to. I'm not sure I understand the question.
I know we fleet a lot of our trucks, right? Where we don't pay like the full price up front, and, like our pickup trucks.
Yeah, it would be the same process to purchase that under state contract, but it would come at a cost, yes, to get that truck. It would be something we need to budget for.
But would you find it beneficial, though, is what I'm saying, besides just banners and whatnot?
Yes, I would. And then surplus that man lift.
That was my next question. We could get rid of the man lift.
If we had a bucket truck, yes.
And Glenn, just speaking for myself again. So if I worked in public works, which don't ever hire me, because I will fall out of the truck on day one. But I'm just, my thought is that, so if I worked in public works and I was out here doing public works things, if I got a job of hanging banners around the city that, make a direct impact on to what you see in the city, I would kind of think that was a fun job, as opposed to some of the other jobs in public works that might not be so fun. So wouldn't you think that that would be an easy kind of, hey, who wants to be on the team that puts up the banners around the city?
Sure. However, what would that person normally be doing?
Yeah, I get that.
Right. You're taking away from really core functions but
it's also
to advertise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want banners to advertise. That's, I mean,
Well, that's the point of any banner.
Promote the city, maybe.
Advertise the city. Yeah.
Okay. However, these are things that can stay up for 6, 8, 12, 24, 36, 48 months. So it's not something that, your crew is going to have to be out doing monthly.
Possibly. Depends on maintenance. But my real point is we keep adding what is perceived as little projects, and they pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on. And we're pulling our resources and our staff from their core functions to do this. And I'm not opposed to doing it. I am just saying we will need more resources and more funding to do it.
So with more funding, are you talking you would need to pay overtime to have people?
We would need to purchase the truck.
Mm-hmm.
We may need to add more staff so everything that you add, we have to take away from somewhere else.
Hey, in my opinion, we just dump the program right now until we come up with a better solution. I can't see us risking ourselves for a lawsuit that it costs a lot more than we'll ever get out of the banners. So until we can get to the point where we have more need for park people to help our parks and all of that than we do banners in the city until we have the money to be able to do this.
I mean,
I think that's a good point. I think when we look at these things, we need to look at the return on investment for the project we're looking at, but then also what we're taking away from. Because if we don't add staff and we don't have resources, we have to pull from somewhere else.
This makes me slightly nervous, Glenn, on if we get a mile or so long linear park, are we going to be able to do that? Because that feels like that's going to need several people for a full.
So I would just prime that the upcoming budget session will probably be eye-opening as to what we are going to be requesting in order to maintain basic services.
I just will always echo, we'll always need to consider impact fees, but no one listens to me on this, I guess.
I agree with you, but I think that ship has sailed.
Well, I got a couple things to add onto that though too, which is one, I mean, we are definitely listening to you, and actually Nate is putting together a package of fees that we're going to be talking with you about and how to pursue those. To Glenn's point though about the impact fees and if the ship has sailed on that, it's just oftentimes those are attached to sort of larger development areas. And in that case, a lot of those have already been dealt with, but there are other opportunities for using that kind of fee in order to generate resources. And we'll be coming back to you with that as part of this whole sort of package. The other part of it though, is that we've been looking at, and we'll be having some discussions with you, and this ties into what Glenn is talking about this issue of like how much open space do we have? What do we think is sort of the amount of resources that would be required in order for us to be able to maintain, for example, open space at an A level versus a B level or even a C level, and then having that discussion so that as new opportunities come up to build more open space, we can have that discussion about, okay, well, if we're going to try to keep everything as an A in Midvale, then that means that if you're going to build an acre, then you're going to require whatever, $10,000 a year per acre in just maintenance fees, plus capital investment and staffing for that. And maybe it's only, a 0.25 FTE for something of that size or whatever that ends up being. But as we look at some of these projects, so that we have that ability to sort of evaluate not just, what does this thing cost, but what is it going to cost over time? And so we'll be coming back to you with some of those things to consider, and also to help with future decisions, not just during this next budget cycle, but going into the future as well.
Can I ask a question, Matt? Well, I know the answer to that. I can, but just on this topic, is this something? So I'm just blown away by. I'm going to be honest. I'm blown away by this discussion. I'm not going to pick on other cities, but Magna, the city or township of Magna, they have banners on their streetlights throughout their main street. So not to pick on any other city, but a good rule of thumb is if Magna can do it, we can do it. So that's just that. Number two,
We can if it's funded.
Sure.
And
So-
the county does Magnas. That's not Magna. The county does it. County Public Works handles Magna, which is a much larger organization than we have.
Mhm. Okay, my next point is for, my original question was this. Can we get banners for the Bingham Junction area that includes Jordan Bluffs and the Phase 1, whatever we actually call that, Bingham Junction? And in my initial email, my question was, and can we use RDA money to do it? Because it is still within that RDA project area. So that's still my question now. And, the other concerns, fine, those are valid concerns, but none of this was my original question. And, the funding mechanism that I asked about has not been considered. So, if Councilmember Glover doesn't want banners in the Fort Union area, and Councilmember Robinson in the Fort Union, and Councilmember Brown doesn't want them in his area, my question still remains, Bingham Junction, which is an RDA project area, can we get banners through RDA money and hang them in the existing structures?
That money from the RDA can be used to do that.
Perfect.
And Councilmember Glover, Matt Dahl asked you to look into that for the pricing so that we can present that to the city council. I was waiting for this banner program first because we could have purchased the banners at a discount from them, and I was trying to get quotes from CGI in addition to other people. So we definitely have you on the radar and that discussion on the radar. We were just waiting for this particular thing to go through first, or not go through.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion there? Thanks, Lisa. And Glenn and council for the discussion, and Laura. Appreciate all your input. Matt, Kane. I guess the next item on the agenda is to adjourn, so I'll entertain a motion for that.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned, and we'll start up in a few seconds with the redevelopment agency.
Mayor, you can go ahead with that.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
All right. This meeting will be, I want to welcome everybody to the Redevelopment Agency of Midvale City on this December 8th. This meeting will be an electronic meeting without a physical location pursuant to Utah Code 52-4-207 as amended by House Bill 5002. My Mayor Robert Hale is chair of the Midvale City Council, and the board of the Redevelopment Agency hereby make a determination that conducting the meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. This determination is based upon the fact that the city is unable to ensure compliance with the guidelines and the public health protocols mandated by the state's current risk phase. As restrictions take place across the state for limiting public gatherings, the city wants to make sure everyone interested in participating in city council meetings and the redevelopment agency meetings can do so. This meeting will be broadcast also on YouTube, and public comments are read into the record by city staff during the public comments and public hearing portions of the meeting. If you'd like to make a public comment, please send an email to Laura Magnus at lmagness@midvale.com. When commenting, please limit your comments to about 400 words, the equivalent of 3 minutes reading. Include your first and last name, include your city of residence, and that's optional, include the name of the agenda item so city staff knows when you want your public comment to be read into the record. City staff will read into the record the equivalent of 3 minutes. Your input is important to us, so please keep your comments concise. Again, I want to welcome everybody. And Rory, would you call the roll for the board members?
Yes, Board Member Gettle.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
And Glover.
Here.
Board Member Sperry's excused.
Thank you very much. We're now at the public comments section, and I'm going to ask Laura Magnus to read any public comments that she may have received.
We do not have any public comments at this time, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda to consider approval of the November 17, 2020 minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I have motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 17th. Any comments or questions on the motion? Rory?
Board Member Brown.
I almost said here. Yes. I don't know what it is about. As soon as we go to RDA, my brain stops working for some reason. Yes.
Gettle.
Here. I mean, yes.
Glover.
Aye.
And Robinson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our item now is the action item to consider resolution number 2020-15 RDA approving the purchase of 0.18 acres of property located at 7657 Holden Street, Midvale, Utah. And we'll invite Nate to show us the property and what's involved.
Thank you, Board. Nate Rockwood, Community Development Director. You should see the slides. Actually, I should make these my glass away. Okay. These are slides that I'm sure you're very familiar with because we've been using them dozens of times now. But what the item that you have before you now, continuing with the development of the Main Street CDA small area plan and the idea of walkable access in the Main Street area and parking solutions. We're coming before the board today to get approval to skip through a lot of these here, to purchase the property at 7657 Holden Street, which if you look on your map, it's the property that's highlighted in yellow and yellow there. This is a 0.18 acre property with a purchase price of $82,300, which is what the current assessed value is on the county records. This property is in a strategic location to facilitate the redevelopment of Main Street and potentially augment development with additional parking. It's strategically located in between 6 parcels that the city and the RDA own. And with this, it connects, sort of connects all of these parcels in a contiguous, larger sort of parcel. So we're requesting the council approve the terms of this agreement and this resolution to purchase this piece of property with the RDA. There it is, all one big piece of property. So I've gone through a couple of times with the property we bought on the east side, or that we're in the process of buying on the east side of Main Street. This is a similar concept to allow parking strategies that create a full sort of walkable, parkable Main Street. I could go through those slides if you wanted me to. But if you have any questions about this purchase, I'm happy to answer any of those questions. Or I'm happy to show those parking concepts that we're pursuing as well. But if not, then I'll kind of just move to the recommended motion.
Any questions for Nate on this purchase? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
Mayor, I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-15 RDA, which authorizes the agency to purchase the 0.18 acre lot at 7657 Holden Street for $82,300.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now, any discussion or questions upon the motion? Okay, Rory, would you ask the board members?
Yes, Board Member Glover,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Yes.
Brown, and Gettle.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more action item, and that is to adjourn. If I can.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Good night, everybody, and Merry Christmas to you.
Good night. Happy holidays.
Good
Happy
night.
holidays, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Good night. Happy
Good
holidays.
night.
Bye.